glad my pale legs are the ones showing.
No, you can't see them. I think I got the legs pretty much cut out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matt Hayes, Wylie Jones.
It's nice meeting you, Matt.
Nice to meet you, Wylie.
I have to say, though, talking to you before we got on the mics, your voice has improved. On the mic.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what happened all of a sudden. It's like you got this radio voice.
Richer, yeah.
It's pretty good.
I've been complimented on that. Me and Craig can attest to this because we used to sing together when we were in church growing up.
What? You sang?
Yeah. We were Church of Christ at church, so still are. And we don't use instruments. So it's
oh my gosh, dude, that's right. Everybody's just kind of out there with their voice.
So it's the reason that's I was actually having this conversation with somebody last night. They were asking me about it. They weren't Church of Christ, and I said, it's just that it's one of those things where it is kind of a traditional thing. The reason for that, but it's also because in the Old Testament it talks about using harps and stuff like that and praising the Lord and stuff. But then
instrument.
Yeah, but then in the New Testament, it never mentions an instrument at all. So that's just kind of the reason that happens. So because of that, you have to learn how to sing. I mean,
it's got to be the only religion out there that has no instrument for their worship.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's not to say.
I mean, of all of them.
Yeah, and it's not to say though that if we were around a campfire and somebody busted out a guitar and started singing church songs, we wouldn't be like, well, we're not gonna do that. I mean, nobody would be like that about it.
What's the thing when they, to get everybody on the same tone? What's that called?
Skin flute.
Not a skin flute.
Find the thing that finds your tune.
What's that called?
Tuner or something?
A tuner.
I guess, yeah.
Well, it's a little horn thing. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I have to show.
Like the harmonica?
It's kind of like a harmonica thing, yeah. But it's just that one.
Yeah, I don't know what those are.
Are you saying where
then they go?
Yeah. That's just how you read the tune at the start of the music,
right?
Start of the writing music, and then you find it on there. You blow on it, and then you, so that, and then everybody in the congregation knows. Okay, that's the pitch. That's the pitch supposed to be. Now, I mean, some people.
I'm looking it up.
Some people aren't, greatly musically inclined, but at the same time, it simplifies making sure everybody's in the.
But
same.
They have that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's why song leader is key.
Hey, you know what, man? I'm currently skipping church.
Are you?
Like on the regular. And I had to start wearing glasses.
Oh, okay.
So I got to put them on. You guys look clear.
Man, my vision was terrible. I finally went to the eye doctor 2 years ago and got these glasses, and it just so much better. I was having headaches every day.
You didn't wear glasses as a kid, did you?
No.
Wylie, you wear glasses, contacts?
No.
What are you doing, man? You updating your island?
I'm looking at what that's called.
I could have looked it up. My bad. I didn't know we wanted to know that bad.
I just need to know what that thing is called.
Hey, I do have something for you guys. Look at this. For coming on the podcast, you get holographic Rocket Man's Wheelhouse stickers.
Are you putting these in every sale you make?
No, I only made. I randomly insert some of those sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe I should explain that real quick. So, my wife runs an online record store, and what he's asking is, do we put them in all the orders? And so, yes, we do put Rocket Man's Wheelhouse stickers in those orders. So I did 2,000 of those.
Yep.
And then there's like 100 of those that were holographic. And so there's a couple different ways to earn those, like on video games, but in real life. And so one of the ways to earn it is just like a random insertion.
Okay.
So I'll take like 5 and stick it in a stack. And then whoever's. It's just fun, man. But yeah, so anyway, and the other way is coming on here. So there you go.
Oh, nice.
Did you figure it out, Wylie?
No, I don't know what to.
Man, it's a harmonica.
It's a harmonica.
Either way, what was your point?
Why wouldn't that be an instrument?
Because you're not.
Man, it's an instrument. Listen, I don't even think like that, dude. Like, see, I can't even, like, I don't even, that stuff to me, when I was saying I skipped church right now, I mean, part of it was because we got COVID. And then part of it is because me and you've talked a bunch about the spiritual stuff, but I feel like I've been on my own spiritual journey trying to figure out what I actually believe. And I think, that's really kind of where this podcast jumped off for me anyway, is I felt like when I was going to church, this church, you understand, and me and you've talked about the Pentecostal stuff is probably pretty close on the hierarchy type stuff. And because it's it's kind of a Southern thing. You grew up in the South too, right?
Well, plus the snakes.
Yeah, and the snakes. they both definitely probably have snakes.
You guys don't have instruments. We have copperheads. It's no big deal.
But yeah, man, I just, I wanted to figure out for myself what I really think, and man, I figured out some stuff, and like the other day, man, I had a guy tell me that his wife's leaving him. Just straight up, this guy that I don't really talk to a ton.
Just got heavy all of a sudden.
And he's like telling me that his wife's leaving. And so to me, in my head, I pulled my wife aside. My wife is also, I'm not even going to say.
When was this?
It's like yesterday or something.
Wow.
And so he, so he said that. But I told my wife is a very strong moral person. Like, she's the cornerstone of our family. I mean, we both try to, be as morally responsible as possible. Not even necessarily just in like a Christian Bible thumper, Bible banger way, but just, what can I do right this second to be nice and just enjoy being nice. Like that we've simplified it to that. And so I pulled her aside and I was just like, hey man, this, to make it even deep, this dude's like a close neighbor. And like, man, he just seemed like broken, like when he was telling me that. And I just pulled my wife aside and I was like, we need to, as a couple, figure out like what is a proper moral response, Christian, if you will. Like and Christian in this sense, I'm just meaning like ultimately good, like the best thing you could do that's just good.
Right.
Because but I said, what is the right moral response to that? And I'm more interested in that, right? Like I'm tired of just sitting around and talking about it and mimicking some sort of little, I don't know, culture group together, whatever. But like, man, there's people that are hurting, dude. There's people dying of cancer right beside me, man. And like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of real stuff. Afghanistan, like a lot of the stuff we've mentioned about, like stuff we're going to talk about. I just feel like there's a lot of important conversations, and like, I mean, no offense, but like that stuff, just, I don't know, man. I can't even think about the stuff that leans towards like the creeds of religions. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I think so.
So like all the little subtle differences between Catholicism and Church of Christ and Baptist and whatever, like all those little.
Well, can we all agree? Are you're married? No. Ooh, you can't. He's excluded from this conversation. All right. So here's an example for marriage, and this is something me and Angie had talked about, but it works in any relationship. That you can be scriptural and be a Christian and say that we have a nuclear marriage, right? But it doesn't take away from the fact that you still should enjoy each other and compliment each other and be nice to one another. I think ultimately that's what's most important in any relationship anyway than what the book says. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be fulfilling anyway.
Well, I mean, Jesus himself said it over and over again, like the main pillars is taking care of one another.
Right.
Right. Like it's not worrying about instruments in the service. I mean, that's what my church does. I don't really argue about it, but at the same time, nobody ever talks about it. Like, because the main focus, like you're saying, is like, what can we do for somebody next to us? Somebody next door is struggling with something. What can you do? Like, don't worry about the little stuff. Like, go out and do something.
What does she like to do? How does she spend her time outside of the kids?
Well, she loves to. She loves to run the business.
Yeah,
she loves that.
She kind of built it.
Yeah, and she's her family.
Both of you did, but
yeah. And that's been cool too because our strengths and weaknesses are different, and so we kind of have that going for us too. And I mean, there's not a lot of conflict, I don't think, between us in the business.
She seems pretty laid back.
Yeah, but I mean, there used to be, though. Like in the beginning, we would fight about just stupid stuff, like the way the boxes were stacked, or you didn't order. Like, we didn't know, man. Like, you're really figuring it out.
Dude, we were broke. Young couples go through that, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the business, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but now we found this kind of harmony where we just, like, really jive.
That's good.
Yeah. And, it spills over into your regular time. Like, we'll just inadvertently, that night, she'll ask me questions. We'll have to talk about business or whatever. And that stuff used to get, mixed up. And if we were already stressed, then it was like business stuff would get added into that. So we've really found a really good groove to just separate the two. And we have, I don't know, man, it's cool because, I mean, I've said this 1,000 times, but I mean, you saw me when I was just taking like 1 or 2 records on my lunch break. And then you saw me like buying every CD I could get my money on at Best Buy as a kid. And, I thought about this the other day, dude. There's no telling how much money I spent on CDs. Mm-hmm. And you would think like that's a waste. I literally had one of those big double, like 200 whatever CDs. And then I had 2 of the little ones. And like I had so many, but looking back now, it's like I was giving myself a music education. Like I can't say that all those times that we were going and buying CDs and going to media play and hanging out and like, dude, that wasn't a waste for me.
What was the one that was in every mall? You go buy cassettes and CDs.
What was Electronics Express?
No,
that's not it, is it?
Did Radio Shack have something like that?
No. It wasn't.
Radio Shack.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It wasn't Capitol, was it?
It was next to Ruby Tuesdays at Rivergate Mall.
Yo,
it was right on that end.
You remember when CDs were like $30 and they had them in those plastic cases?
Media Play was the one that sold them for like $30 or $35.
And you had to buy them because you wanted one song. You had to buy the whole thing.
You didn't know what was on the rest of it.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's something that I don't know if you picked up on it. Did you watch that Jacob Dylan podcast with Joe Rogan?
No.
It's really good. It really is. But so that's Bob Dylan's son, obviously. But he was saying in the 90s, the way they track listed all those albums, he said it was real easy because they didn't have to think about the sides on the records anymore. They just put their best song first and then first to worst. And honestly, it really makes those albums feel weird because you really do about halfway through. You're just like, man, I'm done listening to this. So they more or less are like EPs.
Well, and that was back in the day when radio was king. It's not anymore. Now you can get it. It's almost like every song that they make is equally. I'm drawing a blank on a lot of things tonight, but there's a band, they do a cappella, and it's
Pentatonics.
No, but really close to that. They do a lot of cover. Something in one guitar.
What?
And it like 5 people in one guitar.
What are you talking about?
I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that when this is done. It's going to blow your mind.
Hold up, you just told me. Hold up, let's recap.
It's these
this,
people.
Man. You just said.
I said acapella. I know.
You said it was acapella, and then you're like, but it like might have a dude in like one guitar. Man.
It's this one girl, and then 1, 2, 3.
Evanescence.
Yeah. No.
Is it Evanescence? It had one. She had one girl.
Okay, there was one.
Dude, I mean, I could pull this computer up right here and look, but this is way too much fun watching you try to figure out this acapella band with one guitar.
But they somebody that you're probably already familiar with is Chance the Rapper. Supposedly, Chance the Rapper puts his music out for free. How does that even work? He does it on YouTube,
he would have,
right? And
he would have videos on YouTube. I'm sure he still has it on Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, even if he puts it on Spotify,
they basically all put it out for free now anyway, man. I saw a chart the other day where it really dropped off.
So they're making deals with the streaming service or Spotify. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like the profitability is up for the music industry.
And you're talking about albums. I mean, I believe that too. You're talking about albums and you know how it's just like a bunch of EPs. I mean, I see most artists now just put their songs out on Spotify. Like, here's a song, here's a song, here's a song.
Yeah, that's really cool in a way,
dude,
though,
you
man.
sent me that 80s sounding dude.
Hey, man, can I give one suggestion from like the years and years that I have spent in music, can I just give one simple suggestion to anybody who listens to music?
Remember band names.
Break down everything you can possibly imagine in your mind that you have around music, like classic rock as a thing, and that's what that is. Like, dude, music is just this vast ocean of different avenues and bands, and like this guy leaves the band and had this little side project, and it never ends. And there is so much music that marketing is never really graced like its presence or whatever. I mean, you'll have some stuff like Townes Van Zandt or whatever, which he wasn't popular when he was actually alive, and then since they dig these guys up, make documentaries about them, and start really pumping their records. Yeah, but I mean, it's the same popular. But it's the same with writers and playwriters and sometimes even movie
philosophers.
Writers. Yeah, I mean, you don't appreciate things until they're gone. But I guess what I'm saying, man, is like when you really do start breaking down all the genres, and you just think all these albums and all these things are just expressions of these people. Like, these people are getting together just like we are, but instead of their mind, they're sitting, they play an instrument, they have a skill, and they play together. And then here's this like captured moment in time. And then what's crazy is think about how diplomatically important a lot of those things are, man. Like, think about how, I mean, I don't even know what the word is, man. What is it, like transcendental or something? Like, just think about how huge of an impact something like Dylan
or Pink Floyd would have. I just had an epiphany of what you're explaining. Good Lord, this is great. You ready? I mean, it's just, I'm about to put this shit out there. You ready?
Do it. Let's go.
We're living in an age where all of that can be experienced because the gatekeepers are no longer in control. That goes for movies. Mm-hmm. That goes for really any kind of entertainment or information. I'm understanding that now because I'm still working on getting my book published, but it's not just Amazon. There's other companies out there too, but you can self-publish. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go to a publisher. Yeah. Granted, you got to do all the promotions yourself. You got to.
Isn't that really what Rogan's doing?
Yeah, I think so, but he's got a team.
Yeah, of course, but I'm saying like he's not like MSNBC or CNN. Like when you, I think a key thing in what you just said is that they're losing their grip.
Yeah, of course.
Like, people are turning off their TV.
Dude, the radio, how long has that been in control of all music and what's popular and what you're going to listen to and be exposed to?
And now it's over. It's an afterthought now.
Yeah, and if you didn't listen to the radio, you wouldn't know what bands were coming to town. Like, where else would you see it?
Dude, you don't need to know a TV. You don't have to have a TV guide. You don't need to subscribe to anything anymore. You can just go to Netflix and flip around and
play what you want,
or YouTube or any of that. I was telling Angie this just yesterday. I said, why do we even have cable? Seriously.
Why do you have cable?
I built her a she shed. My wife loves her she shed. I don't know what she does out there. I just toss
crafts.
I leave plates of food out there because I figure she's hungry.
And then they're gone?
And it's gone.
So you just figure she eats it?
Yeah. It's either that or, or some animals.
Feeding dogs.
But she's out there all the time, and she watches Pluto TV. Mm-hmm. It's free. You watch whatever you want.
I never heard of, what is Pluto TV?
It's one of them. I mean, dude, there's so many.
It's just another...
It's just an app. You watch TV shows.
Yo, did we ever figure out what this a cappella band you're talking about is?
Yeah, I think it's 5 people and a guitar.
That's what it's called?
Dude, I've never heard of what are you talking about? Hang on, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it? Yeah, he's got better access over there.
I just need to move.
I think it's they're on YouTube. I'm sure they're in a lot of other places. But they do the same thing. They've been approached to be signed. It was your laptop. They've been approached to be signed a bunch of times, and they keep turning it down because they have more control and access on YouTube, putting their music out there. If I'm quoting them right, and that's based on interviews that I've seen before. But there's a lot of bands out there. It's just the traditional side of it is gone, man. Like agencies. I mean, what do you need a travel agency for? What do you need representation for?
Jacob Dylan says something to that effect, where he says, maybe you were working for the man and you had to put in so many dates and they kind of set your career for you and you had to do so many albums over so many years. He goes, but it was at least a path. And he's like, now musicians, it's just a free-for-all. Exactly what you're describing is you just go out and maybe you get big off TikTok, or maybe you get big off Instagram, or maybe you get big off YouTube, or maybe you play some festival. I mean, it's crazy. Like there's YouTube, there's TikTok stars now where they were working at like a phone store, and then had some little song they put up on a ukulele or what, a guitar or whatever on TikTok. It goes viral. Next thing you know, it's like 3 months later they're playing like festivals.
Or Justin Bieber. I mean, you name it. All these little YouTube people doing whatever.
Yeah, but he's more of what what I was just describing about a career. I mean, he was the child star, was he?
Mm-hmm.
But then I mean, they caught him pretty early, and then it seemed, I don't know. I would describe his career like, I don't know how he got discovered.
Dr. Dre.
Well, you just told me how he got discovered, but he, I mean, he had a pretty standard career after that, where he would just put out records. He was doing his little tour, and they put him on magazines.
But that's my point. I mean, there's nobody to go through, if it makes sense. Even movies, man. These Hollywood, like these big studios, like Marvel still needs Fox or Paramount or whatever. But you got a lot of these movies.
I'm a big movie guy, so I can help with that.
I love movies, man. But I love particularly scary movies is my thing.
The experience he had with music growing up is what I have with movies. Like, I used to buy tons and tons of movies.
Oh yeah,
dude, I never thought about it like that. That's true.
Taking me to where I am. And video games.
Because he had like,
especially. I still have.
You're the only dude I knew who ever had like the high def and the Blu-ray DVDs, or like the high def DVDs and the Blu-rays.
Yeah,
dude, do you remember
now
that
I'm on
guy's
4K.
Bro, do you remember the guy's house we went to in like Indiana?
Yes,
and
he had the laser disc.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He's the only dude I ever saw that had laser discs.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those?
That's the big ones,
he had as many as I had records.
It was like a record. It was like a record.
Tell me, he had this many, didn't he?
Yeah,
he had like this many, dude. We pulled some. He had like the wall. I was tripping out.
Like now?
No,
this was
like 20 years ago,
97, 98.
Dude, that was expensive.
Yeah. And he had it in a movie room, so he even had like a projector set up, and
he was probably for sure like selling coke.
He's
or stealing.
He probably has.
That's expensive.
He probably has a lot of Blu-rays today, I would imagine. He probably.
I still buy them.
I do not buy as many as I used to, just because, you'll buy one and then 3 months later it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
True.
And it's like,
well, no. I don't buy them new, but I'll buy them used. Like
okay. But I will buy 1 or 2 year. Like I bought Tenet last year because that was a big movie. I really like that movie.
Tenet?
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
That's them.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's them.
It's 5 people playing one guitar.
Yeah.
That's definitely not a cappella.
Right.
I don't know what you call that.
It's kind of a cappella.
You were going to ask if
it's
this
kind of.
Is Church of Christ like this right here, 5 people playing one guitar?
Well,
yes. It's exactly like that.
I've never seen 5 people work one tuner, so.
Yeah, true. That's true. I didn't. So what's their band name? 5 people, 1 guitar.
It says 5 people, 1 guitar.
Yeah.
So I have a guy that I went to pharmacy.
Do you think they could practice during coronavirus? Sorry.
I hope they do.
No.
Just Lysol each other's
mouths.
I had a guy I went to pharmacy school with named Jesse D. Clark, and we graduated in 2015, so we were in class together.
Yeah, that's a sexy name.
11 to 15.
Jesse D. Clark.
He's the lead singer for a band called Creature Comfort. Have you heard Creature Comfort?
No.
And I remember when I talked to him about Spotify, because I didn't use Spotify until I went to pharmacy school like 10 years ago.
He's a pharmacist and a singer?
Yes. He's in a band, yep.
You have to diversify.
So that's busy.
Dude, who are you talking about busy?
He doesn't really have to work as much because his band's gotten really doing pretty well for itself. But anyways, I remember when I first talked to him about Spotify, because I didn't even use it. I didn't know what it was back 10 years ago. And he's like, no, you got to do it. Free music anytime. And so I didn't realize at the time he was in a band when I was talking to him about it. And then I ended up talking to him about a year later, and he was like, yeah, I mean, this is what helps my band, because we don't have, I think they have a entity they work with for their production and stuff, but he doesn't work for anybody. It's just the four of them, and they write their music, and they do, and they play, and they go do shows and stuff all around Nashville. And they won Battle of the Bands in Nashville in 2016. They got to play. They got to play at Woodstock or whatever it's called now, Bonnaroo. They got to play at Bonnaroo because they won the Battle of the Bands in Nashville one year, and that's like
Bonnaroo and Woodstock.
Spotify.
Are not the same thing.
I would think that's. I mean,
they are the exact same thing.
He would agree that like Spotify is huge for that. Like it really helps him because he doesn't. If we were living in this world where you had to listen to what the radio, what's the big?
Don't you think that's perspective? I mean, because the artists, if they could get $20 and everybody would buy records and they could get $20 as opposed to just putting it up and then getting whatever Spotify will pay them for. Excuse me. I mean, they used to make more money. I mean, back in the 90s, it was almost double. Let me see if I can find that chart and I'll show you.
I would think that, yes, artists would make more money, but you would have less artists. Because you wouldn't have the tools of discovery that you have now.
I agree. I mean, there's pros and cons to both, I think.
There are so many bands I hear about people talk about, and I'm like, I've never heard of any of these people.
What would be the cons for streaming and the technology that we have now, though?
Well, I mean, I guess
it exposes you. You have a availability of more and an exposure to things that you would never be exposed to on 102.9 or 103.3, any of that.
And plus, the radio had reached a point where, say Billboard would assign a playlist to a major radio station, like 107.5 The River is 107.5 The River, but it's run by a huge company.
Yeah.
So they're playing the exact same thing as a station in Tampa, as a station in California, whatever. And so your chances of hearing a Nashville band are 2 a.m. in the morning.
We would have had to go listen to like Lightning 100. They played a lot of local Nashville stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's important, man. But like, there's a lot of local music that's corny too. Like, just because it's local doesn't mean it's good. But it's the same way with popular music. Just because it's popular and being shoved in your face doesn't mean it's good either.
That's true. Yeah,
it's just the way they're marketing it.
Yeah,
I think
like how many local bands moved here from Philly.
I think you're gonna have corporate music no matter what. Like you listen to 97.9 in Nashville, and it's just not good country.
But when you say it's corporate,
it's garbage, dude.
It's not good. But
like when you say it's corporate, though, like just because it's corporate doesn't mean it's bad. If somebody took $500,000 and said, like if I had $500,000 and I said I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna find some band. I've started just a corporation, LLC. And then I, just to protect myself in case this band goes and like rape some chicks at a Motel 6 or something.
Which would be terrible.
Would be awful. And it would soil my company.
Uh-huh.
So I would try to avoid that. But I would take this money and invest it in a band. And so like if I took this band and said, hey man, I'll sign you. You let me and I just went and tried to find the best band I could find in Nashville. Like that could be corporate. Like I would say, hey dude, I'm going to manage you. You need managed as a band. Like you got 5 dudes, you're all friends. You're going to need somebody to help you. Like that is what some of that corporate rock per se was back in the 70s. It's just they kept figuring out how much money they could make off of it. And it just kept getting more disgusting until when we're in high school, there's like dudes with beads in their hair and like aluminum foil jackets dancing around in boy bands and like wind pants and junk. And it's Disney.
Well, it's still
just
around
not
now.
Cool.
It's still around now for sure.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think I'm tapping into what you're trying to say.
I mean, you're like that's always going to be there, But
yeah,
now
I think from the perspective of people who want to
Spotify,
get their stuff out there, it's perfect.
Now with Spotify and YouTube, that stuff we can find that stuff now. Whereas we never had a chance of finding Creature Comfort 20 years ago.
Do you know why there's garbage country on the radio right now? You know why garbage country is out there? And sorry if this offends anyone. I'm just laying it down. I used to like country music. But now there's no distinction between that and pop music or top 40 or whatever. And the reason why is because corporate is trying to keep up with what people are listening to. Mm-hmm. and they stop listening to country because there's no more country. You're losing country fans, or you're trying to change the face of them.
Maybe I think it's the same. I think
that's corporate.
I think we're describing the same
corporate.
problem though. Like I guess the point that I'm trying to say, it's corporate. It's corporate. The point that I'm trying to make
is what I'm saying. When you're looking at Spotify, you're looking at YouTube, you're looking for a country band, you find the one that you like it's not being played on the radio. That's the discovery, and that's where the gatekeepers aren't in control. Enough. Hey, I like this person. I'm going to share this with a friend of mine on Facebook or whatever, and then the next one and the next one and the next one. Now they got a following. Then corporate's going to try to buy them. That's the way. I mean, it's always worked that way.
Hey, man, do you know why the Rolling Stones are coming to Nashville in like a week, and they're going to play the Titan Stadium? Do you know why they can still do that?
Rediscovery.
No, man.
It's
because those dudes, all the way back from when they first started, were really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
Their band is really, really good. Those guys, when they're playing their instrument, now, if you look on the stage, if you go to the show, they have some help up there. I mean, they have another guitar player that's just kind of standing in the back. They have Chuck Leavell on the keys. Like they have some backup singers. Like there's some people tying it together. But Mick's still singing, and Keith's still playing. And so, I mean, those dudes were really good from the start. So from my perspective, I think that bands like Marshall Tucker and Leonard Skinner, like these bands that were allowed to develop, that is what's important to me, because ultimately I think that's what makes better records, better albums, things that actually make cultural impact.
Yep.
People taking chances on like Nirvana, where, there's different counterculture type bands that somebody allowed them to make their records, man.
Yeah, but isn't that just the evolution of their music?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is most of the stuff that's marketed is corny and is just not cool, man. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like most of the stuff.
I think we're all trying to talk about the same concept. I think we're all kind of in agreement here.
Like I just want the art to be pure. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but again, like we're saying, like how many artists did these major record labels probably just stifle because they had a first album? I mean, you know this. Like, how many bands that you know of the first album? Like, we always talk about the first album, and then the second album, it's like, man, I don't know about that second one, or the second one's the popular one, and the first one feels like the pure one.
But they're gonna that stuff doesn't even matter, though, man. I think the money that they're probably pumping into these bands is just going to go off of sales. I mean, it's going to be a pure money thing after. Like, hey, man, make your record. That's cool. It doesn't matter if you make Dark Side of the Moon and it's the best record of all time and it sells 0 copies. So, like, maybe there's a ton of stuff that just, it was the wrong time. And I think that ties into what you're saying with, like, some rediscovery stuff. There are albums that I can, could name that I think were ahead of their time or have continued to connect in different ways across time. So there's some of that, but I think the record industry in and of itself isn't all that bad. I think it's like any other business where there's going to be negatives and then a lot. Okay, man, who do you think, if you're an artist, like most artists that we could name are not like the Stones. They don't go across multiple generations and they have their one little time. They're cool for like 5-10 years and that's it. Some people don't even get that.
The Monkees.
They started about the same time, right?
And I mean, so it's who's the first person they're going to turn around and blame is my point. Like, they're going to, oh man, the record industry, they screwed me. No, dude, your records, nobody was buying them anymore. And we had to let you go, dude, because, your ticket sales are terrible too. You're just not connecting with people anymore. And you won't listen to us. Like, we're trying to get you to go to this smaller venue. Like, dude, we don't know all the conversations. And I think a lot of times the record industry itself, like, what point do they have to step in and even defend a lot of this stuff? But I don't even think it matters, because a lot of these bands, and going back to Jacob Dylan's point, I think he's saying that a lot of these bands, they would have never had the money or the backing to even get out there on the road to begin with. So, it was at least a start. It was at least a foundation, a model to do it. Like, can it be done different ways? I think absolutely. And I think for small town people or people that don't have access to a Nashville or a LA or a New York, if they can put some videos up and get discovered because of their talent, I think that's cool, man. And I think you're right that there are boundaries that are being torn down.
That's more of the way to put it, but would you not agree that the trend of country music is completely different than what it was 20 years ago?
Yeah, but see, I pay attention, yes or no, but I no, because I pay attention to different stuff than CMT country.
Okay,
like Sturgill Simpson's one of the most killer country rock artists ever.
But
and he's right now.
But you have different platforms to make that discovery, and you got more of a student mind when it comes to.
But see, to his point is everybody does because of Spotify now.
Now they do.
Yeah.
But before, and this is what I was talking about with the gatekeepers, you didn't have that opportunity with gatekeepers. They told you what was good.
Yeah.
Correct. Or you had to buy 100 CDs.
Yes.
1,000 CDs.
Yeah, I don't think a Sturgill Simpson survives 20 years ago.
No.
Well, probably longer than that. I mean, maybe the 80s, because he doesn't, if you took today, the way country sounds today, moved it back to the technology of 40 years ago and dropped Sturgill Simpson in there, nobody finds Sturgill Simpson.
He was actually
word of mouth.
I don't know where they found him. I don't know where he got discovered, but he was in a band called Sunday Valley, and most of that stuff. I actually have some MP3s of it somewhere. But they pulled it down offline pretty quick.
I know you can't have just sad country songs and one guy with a guitar standing in the center and he just kind of moves this way as he sings every song. I understand that. I mean, there's an evolution of country music as well, but it stays with a steel guitar, right? That never changes. It's supposed to. And then like a fiddle, I don't know. There's some things that are supposed to be constants and they're not.
I mean, there's a lot of non-traditional stuff they've done over the years too, like Dixie Chicks. That's not really
That was kind of where it
country.
Started, really.
Taylor Swift's not. It's kind of not country.
Well, I mean, she's not
At
even
all
anymore. No.
But that's where it all started, is kind of the evolution of it too. But I don't know. That's just a personal
country is a
opinion.
unique genre too. Like it just, like you're saying, it's a traditional genre. I mean, it's got its caveats that always feel like has to be there. Steel guitar, fiddle, banjo, whatever. Crying about your wife left you, whatever, in songs. That's just kind of what it is. But like he's saying, like now, like you hear the pop songs on the radio in these country songs now, and it's just drastically different. They all have the same, you hear those same snap fingers doing a beat in the background, and like you wouldn't have heard that in a George Strait song. Are you kidding me? Back in the late 90s now.
I think some of it's man, it's probably the whims and flows of music too. I think people, like, a lot of this stuff can't be rediscovered. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it is the way we live in
You don't
Tennessee.
think so?
I mean, is there another genre of music that can come out? I mean, I guess it would have to be out of electronic music at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could you have perceived rap in the 60s? It's hard for us to perceive what it could even be. But I think that I don't know, man. I just really try to take the genre piece off. But that there's always like the whims and flows. There's the traditional country, and it was cool, and then it kind of wasn't cool anymore. Like you get to the 90s,
Right?
And you got like Bryan Adams,
And I'm not.
and so then they start trying to make like these country Bryan Adams.
And I'm not meaning
impersonators.
that it's traditional in the sense of the way it was back in the 60s. That's not what I mean. There's just some constants of country music that makes it keeps that label, right? Mm-hmm. If it's country music, then there's some standards that need to stay. It doesn't need to evolve where it's not country music anymore.
I guess I think about it like this, man. And this is probably a pretty good place to leave it for me. And I'll just shut up. Y'all got something else to say about it? Y'all can go. But
you're getting upset, aren't you?
No, I'm not getting upset. I just I'm gonna throw my glass.
Freedom.
No, I'm not getting upset. I just think that there's really good. If you look back, people try to say the 80s music was trash. I think I've heard you say that before. But I think if you look back, there really is good music that's going on somewhere pretty much at all times.
Yes.
And maybe because I start feeling really disconnected from music. Like I can't find something new, or I can't find something that I don't know that I'm jiving with right now. Like I just kind of get fatigued, and then something will just come out of the woodwork, and I'm like, man, that was from 2007. Like I could have discovered that between 2007 and now, but I didn't until now. So I think I usually just try to stay focused on what is good right now and try to listen to that and understand why. And that's the cool thing about the record store too. And I had this happen to me with that Kendrick Lamar record that I keep playing for you. Like that came out in 2012, Good Kid, Mad City. And we kept selling it.
That's an awesome album.
Like I'm not a fan of rap. And I started listening to this record, and I can just put all that aside, all that stuff we talked about right there. I used to have a hard time with that stuff, like, oh, these dudes are posers, or these dudes are whatever. And now I'll genuinely listen to it, and in my head I'm like, is this good or is this not good? And that record blew me away.
That's good, man. That's good.
And I was like, that. And I mean, again, it's just people expressing themselves. If it sucks or it's kind of corny, just listen to something else, because there's
yeah.
And hey, man. I try to think about my dad wouldn't have hung out with people that probably like listened to The Clash, or that wouldn't have been his scene. But then looking back, that's pretty cool music. Like that little scene that they were in, that little punk scene, that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't totally identify it the way some people would, but I don't totally identify with the like country cornbread tractor stuff all the time either. But the stuff that like Gary Stewart and George Strait, like Alan Jackson, people that do that troubadour, like the universal truths of country,
easily
like right and wrong. I'm gonna treat my mama right.
Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah, like that stuff. That stuff never gets old, and I think there's always people that are doing that. The cool thing, going back to Sturgill Simpson, the cool thing I think about him is he has this way of doing like very traditional country, but is injecting like real feelings from the country now.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you got
Billy Strings too. He does the same thing. Just sounds different.
I don't know everything on there.
Man, like Steel Woods, that dude I talk about all the time.
Gary
Whitey
Stewart,
Morgan,
I know who you're talking about.
Cody Jinks.
Yep.
I mean, there's people out there. Ward Davis.
Like, to me, that is country. That is country.
That's what
from
I'm
the
saying.
90s.
Like, there's people out there doing
those
it.
dudes are where country should be right now. To me, it's not. I can't. Dan and Shay, Dan plus Shay, Luke Bryan. Like that's just
but man, but
country.
girls got to have music too. Like you got to understand that there's girls that have a completely different experience with life than we do. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I mean,
I don't know. Hey man, somebody's buying it because Dan and Shay sells all the time, dude.
Yeah.
I don't hate Dan and Shay. Dan plus Shay.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think they should have worked on the name a little bit. They got
maybe it's unfair because I just stopped. I just sort of abandoned it.
Yeah, I'm in the same place. Like I don't touch Nashville country radio at all. I don't.
Yeah, but you grew up on that, didn't you? Like your family listened to a lot of country
Spotify's
music.
top 100 country playlist. I don't touch it because that's all it is popular country, and I just don't like it. I mean, I'm going to Cody Jinks and Sturgill Simpson and Billy Strings and stuff like that. You know.
Hey man, you know what I was tripping on the other day, man, and this is probably a really good time to talk about it.
LSD.
No, I was tripping over the idea of like where I grew up, and like, do you remember that gas station down on Gallatin Road called Trade Winds where they sold like bait and like crickets and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yo, when I was a kid, I remember that place. Like all of a sudden, people stopped buying gas from there because they said they were like the Chinese people were watering the gas down. And like I was tripping over how hilarious that is.
Put water in it?
Well, I don't know if it's true. It probably wasn't even true. I don't know.
It couldn't.
No,
be.
the point is
like that would ruin the. I mean, it wouldn't. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
man.
sure it wasn't
put
true.
water in the.
So here's the larger point of me bringing that. No, you're fine. Here's the larger point of me bringing that up. Like, dude, me and you grew up less than probably like 10 miles from each other, and then you were in Franklin.
Yeah.
And we were all like existing at that same time. But like, I remember like you have these different concepts of like the different places in Nashville. And I brought up the other night, I was saying that my dad, where he painted houses, My dad painted houses as a kid. He had his own paint business, and so I worked with him, and but I got to see all the different parts of town. Like we'd go have a job in Franklin or Bellevue or whatever. So I was thinking that was pretty unique to my childhood too.
Yeah,
that I was getting to go around to all those different parts of town.
Mm-hmm. Especially for Nashville. I mean, it's still relatively a big city. I mean,
yeah, it's really
at least from Franklin standard. You know,
yeah.
And Nashville's going to be much bigger 10 years from now. I mean,
for sure.
From 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, do you remember how? And you lived over there, I guess, right over by Shelby Street. What is that?
East Nashville.
It's East Nashville, but
Inglewood,
Woodland Street. Mm-hmm. Okay, Woodland Street. I was over there today, and those old houses. Speaking of Bob Dylan, there's a house over there that Bob Dylan used to own, right across from where we were working. But anyway, it's completely different. I remember when I was younger.
That's like extremely wealthy right there.
Yeah,
now.
that was the place that you didn't go at night.
Yep.
You know, and now.
Yo, man, look, I don't care what delusions people have. Those are still housing. Those are still housing projects that are right there.
Yeah, but not on Woodland Street. Woodland Street, those are multi-million-dollar houses. It's completely.
Yeah, but I'm talking right over on Shelby.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's right there. That's like you're talking within 2 or 3 blocks.
Yeah. But that whole area, man, it's completely different now. Yeah. They got apartment buildings and these, business districts.
I don't want that to come across wrong either, where I'm saying like those are insanely wealthy houses, and then these are the projects right there. Like those, I mean, those people have completely separate lives, and they're right. I mean, it seems to work pretty well, I guess, right there. But it's just kind of a shame, man. Like, it's really a shame.
Sure it is. But what's happening too, though, in the past, 10, 15 years, I guess it's been a lot longer than that, really. First of all, there's nowhere else to live in Nashville. So people come with some money, and then they fix up these old houses or, 1930s architecture, dude.
Dude, that house that I redid over there was 1891.
And you can buy it for $30,000 or $40,000 and then put, $500,000.
Dude, you can't buy them for $30,000, $40,000 over there anymore.
No, of course not. 15 years ago you could. 10 years ago you could. Maybe not 10. But they're unbelievable, man. That whole place is completely different now. But I forget what you were talking. Oh, that area. Like, there's places that I remember of Nashville that you didn't go at night. Or during the day.
So did you ever go up to like Hendersonville or Rivergate?
Oh yeah,
as a kid.
Not very much, but we did. Our favorite hangout was Snookers over on Bell Road.
What is that?
If you're coming from Franklin, you went to Snookers. It was up by the mall.
What is that?
It was they got a go-kart track and it's an arcade place.
Dude, you're like, man, this place called Snookers, man. You like go behind this tire. No, man, everybody went there. At least that's what my dad said.
No, I mean,
no, you like go behind and there's this dude named Itchy.
He's got cigarettes. Itchy had cigarettes. No.
Come on, let me in.
But see, that's the example.
Come on, let me in, Itchy. You know my daddy's.
Y'all know all the different places.
And then me and my daddy throw dice.
Where'd you go? You went to Rivergate Mall, I bet.
Mm-hmm. Man, I went to church.
We went to Rivergate.
I didn't go to
Center.
Snookers.
You don't remember.
You still haven't told us what Snookers is, and it sounds real sketchy.
I've already said.
I feel like you're about to tell us that it was like in a trailer park and it was a double wide.
It's just
and like
before
you could get some liquor at the door. They put liquor on snow cones.
Just before
for the kids.
No, yeah, they ice it down somehow.
Said it used to be a bowling alley.
It's just before.
Is it still there?
Mall.
I've never heard of this.
No, it's something else now.
Snookers. What did you do there?
Arcade and ride go-karts, man. Putt golf. It was just something that all the teenagers went to. If they were going to Nashville, they went there, at least because you couldn't get in the clubs. There was a lot of clubs back then, too.
Like, how old are you talking? Like, how old were you going to Snookers?
18, 17.
When did you go into the military?
19. Mm-hmm.
So you were kicking it at Snookers.
As soon as I got out active duty, I came back home and then started working for the fire department and then been there ever since. That's been quite a while. But I stayed in the National Guard. I finished up my time there.
Hey, yo, man, you guys got your COVID shots? This is probably the wrong time to ask, isn't it?
It's a perfect time. It's always a perfect time.
I think
right?
we're all vaccinated, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey man, so I was in a farm. I was shell shocked after going to get my second vaccine.
I'm gonna do this.
Hey, if y'all got to use a bathroom or anything, just like get up and just go, or if you got to leave or whatever.
I thought we could go on the couch.
Just be. So I'm sitting over there and I'm like waiting to get my second shot, and this lady comes up, and it's just like little old lady with like really two fat legs. You know what I mean? Like cottage cheese looking leg. I'm just giving you the full picture, bro. I'm not making fun of this lady. I want you guys to fully understand the gravity of what I'm telling you.
I'm in, man. I'm in.
So she waddles up to the counter and she like leans on it, and this poor boy, bro. Like, I really think what I'm telling you is violence. This poor boy let this woman just rake him over the coals for like 20 minutes while she just jammed up their I saw it happen. Just jammed their process dead up. She takes over, like she took over one of their whole cashiers. So everybody's in there getting their COVID shots, and then one lady buys like a vitamin water or something stupid, and then like some other like some nice people, and then like just like dude, where do these people live type people, and like the fringe, bro, and so you're sitting there and I'm like, bro, this is what Matt Hayes does.
Oh yeah,
every day,
every hour of every day.
I text him and said, dude, if I had to do that as my job, I would walk out to my car and I would kill myself, dude.
I always say that. I mean that, dude. I always say that. God bless.
And and I don't mean that like making fun of what you do. I'm saying as a person, me, it would go against the grain for me.
I always say God bless doctors and truck drivers. I don't know how truck drivers do it either.
Evidently pharmacists, dude, because man, dude, and I want to ask about this because it seems crazy in there. And I remember the paint store getting crazy, but it wasn't crazy all the time. It seems stressful like that, like you're just super high paced. But then there's that element of the entitlement that this lady was like projecting into this kid, and just, well, I hope nobody else came and got my pills. You better make sure. And then he's having to ask her, well, ma'am, do you have like a Walgreens account? Like, can I look it up? Well, I don't know. How would I know if I had one of those? And so then he'd have to go look that up. And then
there's a very, very good chance. There's a very, very good chance she's like that with everybody in her life. You know what I mean?
So this can be a deep conversation here. Cause trust me,
go there.
This is my world, and we talk about it all the time, and I live this. I mean, it's. You're talking about entitlement, right? Like, we're growing up. How old are you now? I'm sorry, I don't
45.
want to ask on TV, but okay, 45.
TV. We on TV.
It is.
Where y'all at? We out here on
TV. Yeah, we're in.
So I'm 37. He's
37.
Yeah. So
hold on. Did you just turn? Let's get this straight too.
I just turned 37 a month ago.
Okay, so I'm about to turn 38.
Okay,
but
we're separated by age, but I was not old enough to babysit you guys.
Correct. So we would have smoked behind the school together.
Yeah.
Hey man, y'all want some cigarettes?
Granted, I was the one that had to bring them.
What's your name? Wiley.
Yeah.
Like Coyote. Yeah.
Hey, Wiley's got
killer,
cigarettes.
Man. Swings. Wiley's always got cigarettes out there in his little Nissan truck that he's still got.
He took them out of his mom's purse. She
Okay.
never smoked. I don't know.
So anyways, as we were growing up, we always heard the customer's always right. Right. That's what we always heard. That was the training mantra when you get trained for a big company and stuff. It's, and so you've got people like her, and that's like, 60-70% of people that use money, they think that their money means something. Like, that's the thing. Because they have money, they feel like they can say whatever they want to you. You're going to do whatever they tell you and all that stuff. And
but there's there's a little truth to that though, right? I mean, these people work,
not anymore.
And I know what you mean.
Not anymore.
No, but think about, like, people work for their money, and so it does entitle them to getting whatever service they expect. Maybe their expectation of service is too high, right? But in certain scenarios,
yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Except corporate America is like too big now, right? Especially after COVID. What happened was, whether it was his decision or pressure around him, Trump closed everything, right? All the small businesses had to close, but then all the big companies got to stay open because they were essential places, right? So he didn't shut down Walmart, Kroger, Amazon, all that stuff. And those companies just got ginormously bigger during COVID, and all the small businesses struggled. So
it's true, man.
Now the companies are enormously bigger than they were just 24 months ago, right? So now, like, your money, like, if you go to Target and you're mad that they've got a bathroom that's no longer gender identified, I mean, you know how that affected them, that whole situation from a few years ago?
Target, wasn't it?
Target, yeah. Their stock dropped, I believe, 8% after they made that announcement and did it. You know what it's at now? It's probably about I believe it's 30% higher than it was at the start of that back then.
Yeah, and some of that has to do with the memory of the public. Like,
yeah,
nobody's
but
really
nobody. What I'm saying
nobody
is
continues to think about that bathroom
your
thing
money
beyond 2 months.
Your money doesn't mean anything anymore, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, these companies are so big that any force of people that stop shopping from them, there's another group to take that place.
Damn, I like what you're saying.
So what happens? So what happens is, and so because
keep talking
because I deal with this, right? Like, I have people that come in and they have that mentality. I don't typically let situations get to the point where this lady was doing what she was doing. Like, I know how to handle that and move her aside, and keep things moving. But the thing is that when I have someone that asks for something, I will try. I try to look at it from, the perspective of the upbringing that we had, which was just, what can I do for this person, right? Like, it sounds lame, but I don't know what that lady's dealing with on a given basis, right? She could be going through a divorce. She could have something going on in her life. Yeah, probably. It's true. Likely. So at the same time, I try to look at it from that perspective. I try to have the people I work with think, like, you never know, right? But at some point there's a line, right? Like, where it just is persistent. And at this point, I just say, listen, this is the way it is. And if you want something else, you'll need to go somewhere else.
Yep.
And if I had said that stuff 20 years ago, like, under our old mentality of what corporate America is, it's like, well, you don't lose people, you don't lose business. But now, I mean, we tick people off every day, and our business is up 20% from what it was last year and the year before that. It's just like businesses just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You can't affect it.
I think there's a couple reasons. There's a lot to what you're saying.
There should be expectations of the customer too. The customer should have their
there's value in both. I think part of what's contributing to what you're saying, I think what you're saying is accurate. I definitely feel like customer service is non-existent when I go to Walmart. Customer service is basically non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, because
I go to
think about the makeup of that company, though.
But
right?
but I think the reason is because they can't get the staffing they need now.
Yeah, because
it's so high.
They don't let the people that work for them. They don't invest in them. They don't show their. I mean, obviously, this sounds a little rough because we're dealing with this right now at my place of employment. But these companies don't show their employees the respect they need to keep them invested in that company, right? Like, listen, if you do X, Y, and Z, we'll get you this and this and this. Like, they don't do any of that stuff anymore.
Well, what do you mean? Like, right? what would they be wanting? Like, you're saying, I'll get you this. Like, what would this be? Like, a better job?
Better pay in general. And if you
is that about to fall off? Are you good here?
No, it's just twisting on that.
Okay.
And if you give people a goal at work, it's gonna have them something to go after.
You're sounding really millennial right now, though, bro.
Well, that's because
I'm kidding.
I live in it. Like, believe me, like, I'm not. I'm much happier with free enterprise than government enterprise.
For sure.
But at the same time, the government has put its hands in this situation and caused it to happen. This wasn't free market that got us here. It's Trump bringing the CEO of Walmart and all these companies to the White House and saying, look at what these companies did for the last 12 years while all these other companies, small businesses, got shut down in your local in your local city because they by government mandate they had to shut down.
Well, let's think about this, man, because I don't know. I think it's flawed in a couple of ways. I mean, I agree with the essence of what you're saying, but who would Walmart compete against? Like, who's selling? What small business is selling toilet paper and
Amazon?
Yeah, no, but there's not like some little mom and pop market.
There used to be.
Yeah, that's the point, though.
Yeah, I mean, but
we're here
did they
now.
shut down Dollar Generals? Were Dollar Generals allowed to stay open?
I think so.
Dollar General is.
That's a small
great
store.
Example. Yeah,
Dollar General is a pretty big company.
Dude, I actually think Dollar General was genius. Dollar General did the same thing that Sherwin-Williams did. They took a completely different route where they just started trying to go back neighborhood and started trying to put a store in a neighborhood versus trying to force the consumer to come to one spot, like with the mall mentality.
Yeah.
So here I have, and this is just my perspective, but my one caveat I would say to what you're saying, for the average person who continues to work a corporate job, I think what you're saying is correct. But I think that what people always fail to realize is, as Americans, we can invest our time and money in different ways besides just stock market, work, blah blah blah. So you understand these things like exercise or family relationships. I mean, you spend time with your family. You spend time with your family. I do too. You decide how you do that, how much time you're going to do. And all of those investments matter long term. So the reason I'm saying that in this context is I think business-minded people can continue to try to be creative, evolve what they're trying to do, stay relevant. I mean, I really... just in the record industry, man, like one of the biggest flaws that people have is they just don't pay attention to the details, the essence of what they're doing. And that was something that Sherwin-Williams always taught us. Like they always taught us to be quality, to understand what you're doing, to have the knowledge of what you're doing. And I think a lot of that is lost in corporate America. And probably is what you're saying. They don't invest. They don't care that these people don't know anything. They just need them to take the money.
Well, it's garbage too, though.
What?
I mean, it's just
Walmart?
stuff. It's just stuff, and it's a big pile of stuff in a box. You know?
Yeah, and maybe that level of service matches because they're having to compete against Amazon. And hey, man, the dude that brings my stuff from Amazon, I never talked to him, so it's the same level.
I mean, what's quality?
Maybe they've just had to dumb it down because. I mean, are you going to go to Walmart and spend more money at Walmart because their customer service is through the roof?
Well,
I'm not. I just need to get my junk and don't talk to me.
Go to Publix over Kroger for that very reason.
But I mean, you're talking about people who are getting in, or at least starting to get into like an affluent category in life. It's the same type of people that would go to Whole Foods.
I think that affluency.
You just stay away from the riffraff.
I think that affluency applies to small business, though. I think that small business. Now, the reason it can be successful is because of how affluent their customer base is.
Correct. There is truth to that.
I'm talking about people don't have that option if they have to go to Walmart. If you have to shop at Walmart due to your financial situation because Walmart's paying you $14 an hour, you have to go to Walmart. You can't go anywhere else. You can barely go to Walgreens and afford what's there because the pay is so bad.
So what do you think the solution is? I mean, because I would say that it's education. I mean, because people really have to understand that you can do a lot for yourself.
We can get deep
if you just get started.
We can get deep on the multitude of socioeconomic issues as to why this goes on. I mean, I'm not purely blaming corporate America. Like it runs pretty deep, but at the same time, I'm just trying to, shed perspective on the current situation, right? Like this is what it is now,
Well, hey, what's your current situation on how much ivermectin you got at your pharmacy? Hey, man. So how many shots have you given now?
So as of Monday, we have given, this is a vaccine total, but I would say COVID's probably 80% of it, at least 80%, probably at least 85%. We've done 4,800 vaccines this year in my store.
That's crazy.
Dang. How many you personally?
I would say at least 30%, 1/3 of it. We have 3 of us that work there, and now... for a good chunk of that, it was me and one other guy, and then another guy was there 1 or 2 days a week. And now he's there full time, the 3 of us are. But before he was there, I would say me and the other guy were 40% each, sharing on that, just based on how the hours distribution is. At least that. So by the end of the year, we're now in flu season. So by the end of the year, we're going to have 6,000 at least.
So what's your outlook on COVID? Like what are you concerned with?
Here we would do 1,000 vaccines in a year before this, by the way. Doing 1,000 vaccines in 1 year is enough to make my brain bleed.
Of all of them
together in 12 months. And now we're going to have done 6,000. We're doing 6 years worth of vaccines in 1 year.
Jeez.
And yeah, it's crazy, man.
Do you guys do any flu shots?
Yeah, what's the deal on that? What's a hardcore information when it comes to COVID shots and flu, like the time, spacing them out?
All the data that we have right now is that flu and COVID can be given together. You don't have to wait.
Same day?
Yes, and we've been doing that. You don't have to wait a specific time frame in between. You can do them together. That's fine. So every piece of data that CDC has right now, it just jives with just get it. I
read something the other day, not to go off track, but they were saying that they're getting really close to a HIV vaccine. Is there any truth to
that? There's always talk about that.
There's a lot of money behind it.
Last I heard, they were trying to use alligator cells or something like that to do that.
I would do the same.
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of that?
I mean,
yeah. Well, actually, somebody had the idea, like alligators live in swamps, which is the most bacterial infested places on Earth.
Yep.
And why are they so immune to everything? And so that's why they're trying to use alligator cells, which makes sense.
Makes sense.
It's basically the New Testament.
So going back to talking about
get baptized in the swamp.
Talking about COVID in general. We had a rough last 3 months, especially here in Tennessee. It was really bad. But it seems to be we're kind of tailing back off, right? So
why do you think that was? Do you think it was just hitting
because it just
the unvaccinated people?
Yes, it just ran its way back through again. We just had a second outbreak, like
really?
The first one. That's basically what happened. Yeah, I mean the distribution data is exactly the same as the first one on the second one. Now, not the amount. It's probably about halfway less, based on where it was last year to this year, which interestingly enough jives with the vaccination rate in Tennessee, which is barely 50% on second dose, probably about 60% now. But in specific areas,
I ended up with COVID. I had my first shot, and then I hold up. I got to come clean on something because my mom listens to this. I told her I was fully vaccinated when I got COVID, and that was a lie, and I don't lie.
You should call her and tell her you're sorry.
No, she's gonna see it on here. So, hey, Mom, sorry.
She'll call you.
But I had my first shot. So Phil Valentine dies, and I was like, I ain't going out like Phil. You know what I mean? Like he kind of died on that hill, and it almost seemed like out of spite. You know what I mean? Like maybe God killed him. Like Phil, you're gonna run your mouth. Phil, you're gonna run your mouth. Strike. I don't know, man.
I
take that back.
I had a lot.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying. Maybe dude. If you're, I'm not even gonna get into.
I had a lot of middle-aged men that came to me. And they told me the reason they were there to get vaccinated was, I'm here because Phil Valentine. Like, dead serious. That's the reason they came.
Like, maybe he wanted to take out one, but maybe God didn't want to take out all his people. So he knew that Phil was the one. Like, Phil
I feel like I want to go there. I know you don't want to.
Hey, I met Phil
Valentine. I've got examples
I
of
met
that.
Phil Valentine one time.
Yep.
Did I tell you that?
Mm-mm.
It was very not cool, and it was like at a Applebee's or something in like Hickory Hollow.
You went to Applebee's?
I don't think it was Applebee's, man. I can't remember where it was. It was like red inside, and it was like bricks and weird. Maybe it was Outback, dude.
So shout out to the Woodford family. Jeff Woodford, he passed away, just a normal, healthy guy, and he got COVID and it killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the kind of changing point for me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's what we're recognizing.
Hey, man, I was talking about I was lying to my mama, and you took over.
She'll call you. If she watches this one,
Mom,
she's going to call you.
I'm sorry that I said that I was fully vaccinated, but listen, we had our first shots, and then we got COVID. So have y'all had COVID?
No. As far as I know, I haven't.
No, I got
Man, it wasn't that
vaccinated.
bad, but I wasn't dumb, man. I didn't wait for Phil, man. So yeah, dude, I got after I had
Plus,
had
I'm
it,
a
I got
positive
chills
thinker.
for like 5 days. That was the worst part. I really didn't feel that bad. I like continued to work, and we packed records every
Going
day.
back to what you were saying, like that's in generally how it's worked for most people, especially in the South. It's like it had to happen to them or somebody close to them, and then they were like,
God
yeah,
took Phil, man. I'm telling y'all. Listen,
which is understandable completely,
But
listen
man,
to
we
me.
don't do that with the flu or any of those. I didn't know anybody with hepatitis, but I got that.
Well, I mean,
Even if someone had hepatitis, it's like a slogan.
hepatitis is, that's generally, we vaccinate young people and people going to college because it's spread when you're in college,
Sure.
So that's why it's not really the same kind of situation. I mean, flu is just not as deadly. That's the kicker for sure. Like COVID has a much higher mortality.
Well, they certainly
rate.
did a good job scaring us during swine and bird and all those.
Swine was pretty bad. I mean, I remember that specifically. 2009 was pretty bad.
I knew a guy that died from that.
Yeah, that was a bad flu outbreak. But even then, I mean, what COVID has done, that's like not even on the radar at this point.
So is COVID real?
According to the government. So I just think it's funny. I mean, you just brought up
Yo,
the
man,
political thing. That was the opening.
Can I make one statement? Okay,
Well, let's hear it.
And y'all don't kill me and don't turn me into your friends. Okay.
Mhm.
There's been a couple doozies on the right wing side here lately, with like the fake COVID, and maybe they're like sticking microchips in you or whatever. And then like the whole Capitol debacle, TikTok, like everybody getting juiced up to go jump the Capitol, and what the freak, man? And then the stolen election, and then it all hasn't turned out to be true. I mean,
I swear
come on,
to you,
man.
this is the
we're
truth.
looking back, and
I swear to you, this
That's
is
what
the
I'm
truth. A guy that I know to be, he managed a large district area with a different paint company.
he knew a lady, and she got near one of them machines, and it was 300 votes to Biden to one Trump vote. Is that what you're about to say?
He told me in a conversation
That
directly,
another guy.
I'm not going to get it. And I said, well, okay, that's to your own decision. And he was talking to me about it, and he says, look, man, I saw this video, and it had me convinced. And this lady was a doctor. And I said, wow, okay, what video was it? What's her name? I promise you this word for word. He goes, I can't remember her name.
Pimple popper.
Well, see, this is important for me to know. You're about to save my life. Please tell me who this is. I don't want the government putting nanoparticles in my body through this COVID shot. And they're able to track you more based off the cell towers. That's how they're going to be able to track.
Yo, man,
not smartphones. Smartphones. Everybody's got a
Hey,
smartphone.
I don't even think they're that smart. I don't think
No,
they're
they're not. They're not.
They're not that smart.
And there's no system
That's
in place.
paranoia. That's called paranoia.
Yeah, and he saw that's the thing, though. He saw this video, and he was convinced by it. I think that he was already predestined to not really do research on his own anyway, but
Yeah.
this guy has a master's degree. I mean, I know that doesn't matter on anything. But my point is that what was the turning point for me was my buddy Jeff Woodford, shout out again. But I also got to thinking about it. All those years in the military and going to the clinic and getting immunizations for different things, yellow fever, and then there was a different list depending on what country that you went to.
Yeah.
If we got deployed, you had this whole other list that you might come in contact with there. And I never asked one question.
Yeah.
But this one is such a big deal.
This one's such a big deal, yeah. And plus, like most people that are worried about getting this vaccine, it's like you've had vaccines. You don't remember,
and
but
I
you
did
got
call
them,
him.
You know?
I called you because Phil died. Did I mention that Phil Valentine died of COVID
You met him at a Chili's, didn't you?
or an Outback? I don't know what it
I think
was.
it was a Chili's. The way you
But I
described
called
it.
you and I said, "Hey man, what do you think? You're educated," and I based it solely on the fact that he was the most educated person I knew, and was sticking people with these vaccines all the time.
Well, and
No, but hold up. He's not. This dude right here is not my brother, but he's like the closest thing to my brother, and he's the most educated person. And when he said, "Yeah, do it," I'm sitting there thinking, like, bro, that means he would stick it in me. He wouldn't think it's going to kill his friend.
So,
and that was good enough. But I think we'd like.
I just wanted to know where you are at all times.
Yeah, he's got an app.
I got the app. They let me. Yeah.
I saw a picture the other day where it was like somebody had, made a meme of Biden, and it says he was doing it. He had like this pondering look on his face, and it said, "On second thought, putting the microchips in ivermectin was the best idea we ever had."
I like that. But then there's people out there that would read that and say, "See, I told you."
So what do you make of Joe Rogan? What do you make of Joe Rogan's recovery, man? You think it was a stage act, or you think it was
I don't think
legit?
Ivermectin did anything. I don't think it did a thing to him. I think he just got over it. He's a healthy guy.
He's really healthy. Yeah.
I mean, he was a former MMA fighter, right? He looks like he's still, or whatever.
He trains like one.
Bottom line is, he still looks like he takes care of himself.
Yo, anybody that's doing jiu-jitsu legit to his level to be a black belt has done their fair share of fighting.
Yeah, he doesn't. The ivermectin didn't do anything. Because listen, the thing about ivermectin and like those two dudes that he had on his show, Weinstein and whatever his name was. I mean, those guys. It's this can be a deep conversation too, but it's the same mentality of like they are now at this point where these dudes have to be right? Like they're gonna everywhere they go, they're gonna talk about ivermectin to the point where
keep telling me I'm gonna fix your mic.
We have to be right? So they're talking about, all this subset of this, cohort trial data they have, which is like a huge, bunch of trials put together. But what they don't tell you is like they already took 2 trials out of it because of ethical concerns, And even then, the data, like the guy was trying to say, what was the one paragraph that was in that the case summary where the lady had written like there's no marked improvement, and he goes, well, I called her to ask her what she meant by that, and so she tells me that she meant that it was improved. And I'm like, what are you talking about? If it was improved, she would have wrote it was improved in the case trial summary. And the thing is that there, for every trial that he has in that ivermectin group that shows that there was some benefit, like you got to remember, like in all of medicine, when we talk about improvement, we're not talking like, 99 out of 100 people had improvement. We're talking, 13 to 30 out of 100 had improvement. That's what having improvement statistically means. So that's what they're talking about. But for every one trial they have, I've got 2 trials I can show you that show absolutely no benefit at all. Exact same thing, placebo versus the other. Not to mention that, especially when it comes to coronavirus, when you're talking about any treatment about coronavirus,
he talking about corona,
like not the beers.
It is unethical, and this is why some trials got pulled. It's unethical to give a person in the hospital nothing and then only ivermectin. That's unethical. You have to give them supportive care. You can't put their life in jeopardy just to prove a point, right? So like if you're researching a new cancer drug, you don't give one person no cancer treatment and then the cancer drug. You give them proven cancer treatment and then throw the other drug on top of that, right? Because you have to treat people. You can't just...
Along with recommended exercise, recommended proper hydration. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of components involved.
Weight loss... There are 2 new weight loss drugs that were approved recently, a few years ago. There's some new ones that are injection that don't work, but anyways, that are tablet form. And every time, if you look at the trial data, it's comical how it's like, why did the FDA approve this when it's like 8 people out of 200 or 100, whatever, had improvement while they were on this drug, and that's a statistical improvement. But they were also doing exercise, and they were also doing, and even the FDA approved indication is this drug is for weight loss along with diet and exercise.
So man,
they throw that on there too.
What's the scariest thing to you right now about the pharmaceutical industry? Because I mean that stuff, like you're saying that right there, and that sounds scary to me. And I want to ask more questions
not being held accountable still. So. We talked about,
in what way?
We talked about the opioid epidemic recently, right? Suboxone and all
that. That's still a bad deal?
It's still a bad deal, yeah, for sure. It's a little better just because we've restricted hydrocodone and oxycodone a little bit more, but it's still there. But so I don't know if you're familiar with this lawsuit that's going on with Purdue Pharma and OxyContin. Have y'all heard about this where, So back in the 90s, OxyContin was a new drug, and they were pushing it, right? Because they wanted to make money.
Yeah.
They made billions of dollars off of this stuff.
They made so many butt cracks fulls of money.
Lots of money.
Yes. They made butt crack fulls of money.
So they would have...
I got all the Shirley.
They would, and you can look this up on YouTube. They would have these conventions where they would bring the sales reps for Purdue Pharma together in one place, and they would be up there singing OxyContin and morphine and MS Contin, like they're singing songs about it.
Bro, I could sing songs about
because they're
morphine.
trying to sell stuff. So the thing was about Purdue Pharma is they knew that this stuff was addictive. They knew it. It goes all the way to the family that ran the business knew that it was addictive. But all their drug reps would go around and they would not give that information out. They would not tell people it's addictive. So the doctors started writing for this stuff. And then the patients were like, oh, I feel so much better. They'd come back for it. Oh, I feel so much better. They'd come back for more. And they'd come back for more. And they'd come back for more. And then all of a sudden the opioid epidemic starts to ramp up. It was already there before, but now it's much, much, much worse. Like OxyContin was the catalyst for all of it. So anyways, long story short, they finally have been held to account, right? So the government is having a federal lawsuit against them, class action lawsuit with like 2,000 people that have been on OxyContin, where they have family members that died, whatever. And so they have to pay, like $1.3 billion, right? The company does, which not really a ton of money to Purdue Pharma. But like I said before, the family that ran it knew what was happening. And so there's a lawsuit against them. Right, like the federal government has sued the family that runs that business. Sackler family is their name. So the federal government has allowed them to settle as a family of $1 billion enterprise for, I believe, $200 million. The whole family for $200 million, and they can't be sued again in the future. So that's it. All they got to do is lose 2% of their net wealth, and they get to go on living their lives and keep all that money that they've earned off the backs of.
Can I play devil's advocate
Yeah.
to both of you? At the time, we're talking about what, late 70s, early 80s was when
90s.
It was being pushed.
90s.
Okay, the 90s. So I remember very distinctly a guy. I'm not going to name any names because he's alive, thankfully, but he had an issue with that. And he had back issues and knee issues. And he was standing there talking to me and my dad one time, and I was younger, but I guess it was the 90s.
Yeah.
So he was standing there, and we're talking about something. He said, "You mind if I sit down?" And, he sat down. We were outside, and he said, "Yeah." He was over there to do something, and he reached into his pocket, his shirt pocket, and the bottle was in his pocket, and he got a couple.
Yeah.
Put it back in his pocket.
Yeah.
It's my back. And we didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But that's what it was.
I'm sure.
He was chewing them in front of us.
Yeah, which is not good to chew those, by the way.
Right. So
why not?
It's a controlled
It's time
release.
release,
It's
right?
a controlled release drug.
So they're wanting to hit.
We can get into that. Yeah.
So
let's get into it right now, man.
Well, let me say this is very, very important.
I don't take my pill. I mean, like my Tylenol, I chew that up. Is that bad?
No, it's fine.
What about my? Hey, man, listen. No, seriously. That was one benefit, and it sucked during
and
COVID.
Your steroids.
I don't take steroids. I mean, I had to take like steroidal. Hey, man, why are some things called steroids and some things called steroids, but they're not the same thing?
Non-steroidal.
So
no, like if you have a sore throat or you lose your voice, like a singer, and they give them like a steroid shot or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that what that is? How is that different than steroids that make dudes as big as this dude over here?
Anabolic is the difference? Or
like
no?
what? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so steroids.
I mean, if you don't know, you can just say you don't know.
No, I just kind of collect my thoughts for a second. So steroids that you get as a shot, like methylprednisolone, is probably what it was, or prednisone. That steroid does not elicit the same response as testosterone does for bodybuilding, and because that's a hormone, that's an endogenous hormone in the body.
So that's the separation.
It just does different things. Whereas methylprednisolone, prednisone stop inflammation, right? Like a big part of pain and what happens with sore throat and stuff is you have inflammation. It's your immune system's going into overdrive, causing the sore throat, causing you to make you feel sick. So you take a steroid shot, and it just kind of brings that threshold down.
So they're all anti-inflammatory?
No.
Methylprednisolone and prednisone, those steroids are considered anti-inflammatory. Testosterone is not an anti-inflammatory steroid.
You ever heard of an NSAID? That's a good example.
So ibuprofen is an NSAID. It's an anti-inflammatory, but it's not a steroid, so it's non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug.
I told you I had back issues. I know all about that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say...
Man, my back hurt so bad I ended up tying off behind a Denny's.
What I was going to say before he interrupted me again was...
That's a true story, man. I got strung out behind a Denny's.
It just made sense.
I don't feel like you listening to me right now.
That when those drugs were... It was almost that they were... discovered, I guess. Maybe that's the wrong way of looking at it, but we always had heroin, but now we can make it legal and sell it that way.
Yeah.
But
is that really what they did?
Wasn't it an easier way to treat a patient at the time?
So
there are benefits.
There are benefits.
There are benefits.
Oh,
to
yeah.
pain
I mean, my back. Believe me, I know.
These drugs can be utilized correctly, but the problem is and again, this is a deeper conversation. It's just it's an educational thing, right? Like it's like these drugs are not to be given loosely, Like you really have to make sure people understand the score when they get this stuff, Being addicted to an opioid can happen to anybody.
Happened
literally
2 guys really close to me.
Literally anybody, and to be honest with you, it's probably happened to other people and you don't know it, right? That's just the way this stuff works. It's just it can, and the thing is it starts with nothing. It starts with a torn meniscus or a knee procedure. It starts with dental work. It starts with it starts with a broken finger. That's how it starts. So you give somebody, some of this stuff, then it just ramps up from there.
I got a couple saved for the next strokes record.
What we try to do now is, a lot like hospitals have a protocol where if somebody comes in from the emergency room with a broken leg, they say, well, we're only giving you 10 of these, 12 of these. And that's it.
Been there.
And man, when I used to work at the Kroger in Gillettsville, we had a guy down the road who ran a family practice, as he called it. And I noticed one day driving by this place, there was a line of people at the door. You remember where Terry Chamberlain's office is?
No, I don't know Terry.
So there was a dentist there named Terry Chamberlain, and then there was this guy, this doctor. His name was Dr. Warren Hill. And there was a line of people at his door.
I think I know what you're...
To get in there in the morning before when I was going to work. I always thought it was the weirdest thing that this family doctor would have a line. So it turns out a girl that we worked with went to see him because she wasn't feeling good. She just wanted some cough medicine. He gave her...
You want some pills?
He gave her a 30-day supply of oxycodone 10 milligram.
He's a pusher, man.
For a cough. So that kind of stuff is the stuff that's got to go. And that's what's led to this stuff. Giving somebody 12-hydrocodone, it's got to happen. Like the stuff does what it's supposed to. And, again, we got to be educational about it. But that stuff, the guy giving 90 oxycodone for a cough, I mean, that's ridiculous.
I believe this. My turn. I believe this. That there's people out there that can handle psychedelic drugs, and then there's some that can't. There's some people that can handle THC.
Everyone has an addiction threshold,
and then they can't. Everyone has a right.
Yeah.
So I think I've witnessed it myself that I have back issues. I get back spasms. And it started when I was in Iraq. But anyway, so the VA really likes to prescribe those things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, they're effective. I mean, that's all that's going on is that the muscle is very, very tense and it needs to be relaxed. So it's perfect. Muscle relaxer.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't like them.
Yeah.
But then you can talk to the 2 guys that are really close to me that went through addictions and treatment who would take every single one of them that are sitting on this table and they haven't touched them in a while, but they still have that crazed addiction. They talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Addiction, but it has no appeal to me.
Yeah. It's like you're saying. I mean, some people can get addicted to alcohol. Some people can't. Addiction is just it's everyone has a tolerance. Some people are addicted to gambling. Some people are addicted to video games. Some people are addicted to
Everybody's what?
Addicted to something.
Yeah, there's something that
they are.
I'm addicted to love.
Bullshitting people. Like, dude, I can't go for a while without being in the gym.
I'm addicted
I don't
to
know
music.
If that's addictive.
But I think addiction is the wrong word for that. I think addiction has the connotation that it's ruining your life.
Yeah,
that you're so into something that it takes over your life and destroys something.
Addictive has a destructive tinge to it. Would you guys agree?
I think that would be the better way to use.
There's a difference between that and obsession?
Obsession or infatuation. Yeah. But then you would have to start adding another word, like you would have to say healthy infatuation or unhealthy infatuation. I guess you could have negative infatuation.
So that doctor you were talking about, was it sort of a push?
He lost his license. By the way,
I didn't give you an answer you liked right there.
He lost his license for that.
Well,
for running that.
But what was? I mean, we're talking about money, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, you come in and our copay is $100. Well, if you've got 20 people at the door when you open at 8 a.m. and you're saying that's $8,000,
and he can still bill the insurance company, right? Is that what it is?
I would say
I'm
they
pretty
probably
sure your
were
math
not.
was way off right there. We'll just let that go. It's a lot of money. Don't worry about the amount. Actually,
it's a lot of money. But at the same time, he's not going to bill insurances because then there's a record.
Look, man, if you got a copay,
insurance companies, depending on the money he gets, depends on what
was he addicted?
Could have been. I mean, I don't know.
You don't know.
But I know that his practice got shut down for good reason because of that.
Well, the sheriff, man, the sheriff of Williamson County Sheriff, I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
it's all public record.
That story. Yeah,
he got busted with a bunch of those pills. He got addicted. I mean, he confronted his addiction, which was good.
Yeah.
Hey, let me say something though, man, because I have a little different view on it than what I think or at least some more area that I would like to bring to the table.
Do it.
I think that there are people, myself included, that could have a jar, like a Sam's Costco-sized jar of oxycodone in my house, and I would not get addicted to it because I don't like it.
That's me. I don't like it.
And I think I could have heroin here. I think I could have cocaine here, LSD here, and I think I could properly choose when to use all of it. I really do. And I don't mean that to I'm serious. Like, I feel like I have enough self-control with substances. I used to drink alcohol, and I never felt like I had an actual problem in any way.
Everyone has a different tolerance.
And then one day I just decided I wasn't going to think about somebody like Keith Richards. Like, there's just people who are on an extreme. I'm not saying I'm that extreme when it comes to substances. What I'm saying is I think there are people who could decide for themselves, and I think should be allowed to decide for themselves, like in the case of weed and, at least
I
CBD's going on. But
I think there is definitely a line there, though. Think about
it like this. Like,
some people can fly a multi-million-dollar airplane, but not everybody can, so we don't sell them.
Correct, but don't you think there should be some respect for that? Like, let's say you're 40 years old, you've never had a felony, you've always paid your taxes, you've never missed a house payment. Mm-hmm. Like, don't you think I should decide how much allergy medicine I can handle at one time? And don't make me come back in here every month because somebody's twacking it. Like,
hey, that is a bad government plan to solve a problem. That's why that happened. That's not.
But do you dig the essence of what I'm saying, though? That do you think, like, I've always thought that there should be in the argument of like personal protection and protection of how do we stop mass shooters. There's a similar idea there where I've thought, why don't you start developing people almost like the same idea as a constable? Where, like, you're an ex-military guy. Like, let's say we have these ex-SEALs, or you could even start super elite, and they're not a cop, but they're allowed to carry a gun literally anywhere, banks, anywhere that says you can't carry a gun. These people have
that's everybody in Tennessee now.
Yeah, maybe you go to extra training or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like and maybe they have to go to training once a year, almost like you used to do with the National Guard. Maybe there's almost like a National Guard unit of people. Like, there'd be people like
militia,
you or me that would, hey man, don't even pay me. Don't even pay me. I'll come to your training.
That's a militia.
Like maybe like we need to look at that, like modernizing that idea.
Maybe.
And I don't even mean that in some sort of like we're going to have to go take back the government. I mean in a literal safety aspect.
Yeah.
Like man, it blows my mind sometimes, man, when I think about what we really have in this country. And I'm not going to say we've talked about that before, but we have. We really have the greatest experiment ever. And honestly, I've considered we were never really taught that Jesus was going to come back and establish a kingdom, or there would be like a kingdom. But I was thinking, man, if all the Christian principles were put into like one, like government, one spot, one experiment, what would it look like, man? And we're not perfect, but it would be pretty close to this. People who are allowed to just take their creativity.
The whole free world owes their freedom to the concept of America.
Correct. Yeah. And at this point, man, I think we're basically getting, I think you said it earlier, and I think we're getting the leaders that we deserve, because we're just, we don't care about each other anymore, man. You can see it when you go to Walmart. You can see it in everything that we're saying. Like it's a very disruptive environment right now. Like COVID's weird.
Where does this tie in with drugs?
What?
Yeah, we were talking about Oxycontin.
And cocaine and all this in your kitchen, but you wouldn't.
You're messing with me, man. There is a tie-in. I just didn't get to finish.
Come
on, man.
I swear, I was anticipating it.
Yeah.
It wasn't going that direction.
I probably just forgot, man.
That's okay. I do it all the time.
Let's find out. Let's figure it out. What did I say?
Here's what it was. It started by him saying, "Explain the airplane thing."
I think that you were trying to say that you want more freedom of substance use. Is that what you were trying to get at?
Or freedom to choose?
Freedom to choose.
Okay, now what was the last thing I said, though?
You were talking about
Donald Trump something.
You were talking about people.
Yeah, it's like he's saying that we're shedding off all these people's influence. Like people aren't cutting on the TV. We can go out and listen to whatever music we want to listen to. People have, like even this, man. This podcast, we can record it, boom. I get it up on Spotify. It's out there on the main platform, the radio, if you will. People can listen to it or they don't, whatever, right? So those aspects are killer. But what I'm saying is, like, maybe there's some other things that need to be modernized.
There you go. Okay.
Where, like, maybe if you make it to 50 years old, you could even put whatever parameter on it you want. Texas could, if you've never had 3 abortions and like whatever else, and by the time you're 50 and you've never had like a gun charge, you can apply and whatever. Like we could be smart about some of this stuff, and if everybody's so scared of everybody handling guns, then we would all agree that a gun is the same as any other tool. It's who it's in the hand of.
Correct.
And the more training
not
you
everybody
have,
needs to have a gun or should have a gun.
Yeah, and then there's places where people really do need a gun.
There's plenty of people that do not need to be in the military or fool themselves to think that they can understand medicine or come up with something because their uncle said, take this, and they don't listen to experts. Yeah. The thing about the drugs, though, here's the defining difference. Lots of people die. And the whole reason that these systems get put in place is a public safety
That's
issue.
why I was talking about that line, right? Like,
but everybody that has a gun could go slam around into their head tonight if they wanted to,
but they don't.
And so the same thing's true with Oxycontin. I guess it's a substance.
Yeah, but talking about, the thing.
Here's the deal, man. It just doesn't apply to me. And I get having rules and blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But man, me and you are never going to decide that we're going to take our allergy medicine and sell it to some dude that's making meth. So why am I being penalized, and why does my time have to be wasted?
If you're in a bad spot, though, you just lost your job and maybe you need some money, that's a quick way of doing it. Because then now you're in a position there's an influence. I'm using that loosely based, but what you said about the airplane, will you say that again?
Buying an airplane. Said, not everyone should be flying a fighter plane, but some people can.
Yeah,
but
they're highly skilled. They're highly trained.
We don't sell them to everybody, though. That's the thing. Like, they are restricted. The government restricts who can fly a fighter plane and who can't. So you're arguing that that's what needs to happen. You want people to undergo supervision from the government to be able to take these drugs freely. Is that what you're saying?
No. Not even that much. I'm just saying, if I'm 50 and I have no felonies, just like take me off that little thing, man. and let me get however much that I need.
Okay.
I think the thing is that
okay.
Like, keep track of it all you want.
Yeah.
Like, give me a little more rope, bro. Like, stop with the I might be 20 and I'm a junkie. I'm 50. Like, if I'm 50 and I'm still married and I got 4 kids and you can see all my teeth, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be some level of, okay, Mr. Jackson.
Dude,
do you know what I'm saying?
That's
but
a huge undertaking,
if you're okay with that,
does that sound entitled when I say that? Because I don't mean it that way either.
No, I don't think you're entitled.
I'm just saying, like, let me flow freely a little more.
You're just saying
like,
you,
let
you
me be
want
free.
the freedom to use what you want to use, but at the same time, if
I got stuff to do,
if you're
man.
going to use that, if you're going to say that, then why do we make antibiotics prescriptions?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can go get them in Mexico. If you lived in McAllen, Texas, you could just walk across the border and go get you some.
Some people can, but they don't.
So why do we have prescriptions?
So I mean, we do this because
antibiotics are different too, right? Because they can mess with variants.
That's right. I mean, that's why we have stuff like that. Is we're trying to prevent a situation like. Well, I know COVID's a lot different because they made that crap in a Wuhan lab, but. At the same time, we can have, hey, there was an outbreak of strep throat at our school, and then everybody went to the store and bought amoxicillin, and now the amoxicillin won't stop the strep, so now we got to use this. And
okay,
you know what I mean? That happens. Well, like you can go to the CDC website today. They are seeing new variants of, MRSA and stuff like that they don't know how to stop it. Like, we have nothing on earth that can stop this stuff right now. And it's getting worse because of antibiotic overuse. So at the same time, you kind of have to...
what's MRSA again? I'm stupid.
It's...
Like, is that on your skin?
Yeah. So MRSA is MRSA. It's methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, so methicillin's a drug. It's resistant to methicillin, that class of drug. And then Staph aureus is the name of the bacteria. It's the first and last name of the bacteria. So you have to keep all...
Yeah, what do you eat on your pizza?
Just pepperoni's fine.
Yeah, you want some pizza?
I can't.
So
what time you got to go, Wylie?
I don't know. Let's see.
So you've got to have...
7.
You've got to think of drugs as like, the government has established...
Did you say you don't care?
Pepperoni's fine. You establish the FDA, right? Like, that's just what we have. It's not perfect. That's just what's there right now until they come up with something better. But they don't have like, okay, we're going to have an FDA for prescription drugs and an FDA for recreational drugs. If they did that, they could come up with some of the concepts that you're talking about, but that system doesn't exist. So they just put all drugs together. Boom. Marijuana's class 1. Heroin's class 1. Cocaine's class 1. Nobody touches this stuff. Oxycodone's class 2, so you can get this at the pharmacy under a lot of restrictions. Amoxicillin's 6, so you can get it, you know what I mean? Like, that's just the system that's there. But the thing about those drugs that you're talking about, oxycodone and stuff like that stuff, it's not the kind of drugs that we should freely be using, right? We used to think of marijuana that way. We used to think, oh, marijuana's terrible. Why would anybody use smoking that stuff and driving around, Turns out it's not that big a deal.
Well,
right?
Actually, that's not true.
It's the campaign.
We thought that for the last 70 years, but there's a lot of literature. I've watched documentaries on this stuff just because I've been generally interested because it's so closely tied with like the music scene. Yeah. And so I'm watching this. The specific documentary was "Weed the People," and it was about childhood cancer. Mm-hmm. And there's, they still have it listed as a class 1 substance.
But people are more.
But do you think that's bull? Like, do you think they should change that? Is that trash?
I mean, I'm okay with them changing it. Yeah.
Like, because do you think it should at least be?
Marijuana doesn't kill, like oxycodone and hydrocodone do, because they cause respiratory depression in large amounts. You take too much of it, your lungs cease functioning at night when you're asleep. Like, that's what that stuff does.
Dang.
But marijuana doesn't do anything like that. I mean, of course, I'm sure there's a poisonous amount you could take and cause some issues.
Yeah, it's like 1,500 tons.
Making you see colors minutes. And stuff. Yeah.
But there was a national campaign in the 30s against it, though.
Yeah. Because back then, it's like we were saying, like, that was back when after Prohibition, like Prohibition had just ended in 29 or something like that. So, that was back in the days where it was, don't touch anything that changes your state of mind, right? And, now we're in a place where, even in Tennessee, because
we're a lot more educated. Yeah. People are living longer.
And we're more...
So I think the wisdom the general wisdom of society is stronger.
We have the fortitude to see what that stuff can do.
So I think what I'm saying holds weight. Like maybe there's a certain point. Like, hey, if you're 60 and you meet these certain requirements, and we decide whatever that is, and I could make up some that I think you would put there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
do you know how many 60-year-olds are really effed up in life?
Yeah, but maybe they got a couple charges and it would like discount them, right? Like maybe they couldn't do it because like they slapped Jimmy down at the snooker or whatever you used to hang out at.
I'm just against any type of. I don't want.
But see, that's a mistrusting
more
of people.
Governmental entities.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying though. Like
Jimmy,
I think you should get to a certain point where you can just start shedding the government off. Like I think the government, like really, if the government just made sure you were good to a certain point, like. How many 60-year-olds who weren't crazy when they were 30 are all of a sudden now just freaking out?
I don't think we could ever have that system. Like people in general, like I'm not happy with saying this, but people in general are just not trustworthy enough.
Well, I'm saying the people that I interact with seem pretty intelligent. Yeah. And I know a lot of people that I feel could handle.
We're calm. Yeah.
What I'm saying, like where's the allotment for that? And then obviously people would take advantage of it. But what I'm saying is you really want to talk about freedom. Freedom is, hey man, you allow me to get to a certain point where I'm educated enough.
Yeah,
I've developed enough.
I don't think that
I've proven myself. Almost like the idea of an elder at a church, where it's like you've proven I'm not going to screw up. It's like a credit score.
I don't think that form of freedom will ever exist. I don't think it ever has. Maybe back in
it exists because that's the way I live in my head.
Maybe back in the 1700s it did. You know, when you had was your farm, but that's just those days are gone. I think the world has gotten too crowded, too big. Governments have gotten too big. Like you're talking about, even using that system, that's a class-based system that the government has to make to allow certain people to do something.
And I don't even mean it like a class thing. I mean it like really, truly out of a respect of
complete freedom.
I've proven that I can handle myself. I've paid all my taxes. I've had a job for X number of years. I've done these. Like, there has to be some sort of allotment for people who have made really good choices and have a good track record. Now, obviously, we have programs for people who are doing things really well, but it doesn't even always, like, man, you get to a point where money, it's like money it's not even the thing that matters. It's your time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're okay. You're not necessarily worried about how you're going to pay your bills this month.
100%.
Like that's what it looks like when you've developed your financial life right. So, okay, let's say I have all that in place, whatever. I'm literally, my first thing that I'm putting on the list is I just want to be able to walk in, and if I want 2 boxes of allergy medicine, I can get it.
You used to be able to do that.
I'm not a criminal.
Yeah,
I'm never going to sell it to anybody with an RV. I just want to be able to walk in here and go, hey, Ashley, I'll bleep that out. Here's allergy medicine for 2 months, and now I just don't have to waste my time driving back over. It's literally that simple. That's all I'm saying.
And you can't even get.
I ask myself, why am I 37 years old, and I had a job since I got out of college, all that, and I cannot get enough prescription because of something somebody else does that seems extremely rare in and of itself, and it's just. Maybe it's what you're saying. It's just like
it's just a cascade of events that causes that to happen, though. You know, because then
it's just never looked at again, and we just accept it as our bubble of the way we live.
It's a bad idea. It still is a bad idea what they're doing with Sudafed. You're talking about pseudoephedrine, okay? Pseudoephedrine has limits on what you can buy in a day and in a month and in a year. And the limits are so restrictive now in Tennessee that if you needed one every day, you can't get one for every day.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to get your cousin or somebody to buy it.
But the problem is that
don't do that.
Here's what was happening with that. Do you know why this is restricted? Okay,
probably that Breaking Bad show.
Yes. Well, it was
everybody freaked out
before that. So when I started in pharmacy, I started at Kmart. Okay, and I started.
Wiley, do you remember what a Kmart is?
I just shipped my bed. You remember those commercials?
Yeah. So I started a month before 9/11 is when I started.
All right, hey, we got 45 minutes before the pizza's ready, so yeah, we can.
And that's when all this stuff kind of was really at its peak.
Hey man,
and it was methamphetamine use. That's why this happens. Okay. So
what time frame was this?
This was 2001. 2001. So
shake and bake and all that.
Yes, exactly. That's what that's what shake and bake is separating pseudoephedrine into its basic form so you can use it to make methamphetamine. So one day we used to have a security guy that worked at Kmart, and one day he came over and he brought, I don't know, probably 20, 25 boxes of Sudafed that were empty. Somebody had grabbed them off the shelf and taken them out to the toy aisle so they could hide and take all the wrappers out, put them in their coat or whatever they did, and then left all the empty boxes in the toy aisle. Okay. So that's what was going on back then, is because it was on the shelf. Sudafed was just on the shelf. So every day you'd find a random Sudafed box somewhere in the store, on the ground somewhere. Okay. And if it was happening at a random Kmart in Gillisville, Tennessee, you can imagine how many places in the East Coast, especially around West Virginia, it's really bad, still bad. You know, so around the East Coast, all the way down to Florida to Arkansas, Missouri, like how bad of a problem it was, right? So what was happening is you know, this is going on everywhere. And so, you know, kids are dying from methamphetamine. Like, meth sucks.
It's
like,
really bad.
Meth is a terrible drug. Like, that's not something we should be okay with legalizing ever, because that kills people for sure quickly. And, you know, you had kids that were growing up in trailer homes. They were living in the fumes of,
it's bad.
Yeah. And,
I've been to meth houses
and
before.
Law enforcement would go in and try to
now
bust
y'all
these
making
places.
me feel bad.
You should feel bad.
No. So
your mom's going to call you about that too.
I'm just saying I'm legit. Check me out.
So
let me buy my junk.
Oh, they are.
I want a
Right now they
TSA
are.
pre-check for my allergy medicine is what I'm saying.
So law enforcement would go in and bust these trailer homes, and then they would, you know, maybe use a firearm and the trailer would explode from the meth use. So then everybody dies, right? Like this happens over and over again. So, you know, of course, the public is outraged.
Hey,
like,
man,
we
does
need
it
to
really
do
happen over and
something.
over and over and over again? Because I don't know that I ever remember hearing anything about trailer homes blowing up.
Dude,
I'm not trying to be a butt.
I've been in those before. I've cleared. In fact,
I'm really messing with you, to be honest.
oh,
I know.
well,
It helps to have data, you know. when
the
you're
thing
trying to-
about the thing about meth, while you're looking that up, I will tell you this: a couple different classes that I've been through about recognizing and understanding the
Lower,
dangers. Dude, it's
middle
so-
class.
There was a guy in Columbia, which to all those knows where the show is. It's just south of here. There's video footage from the hospital, maybe 5 years ago, where he was doing a shake and bake at about 2 a.m. in his car in the parking lot of the hospital, and it exploded and killed him.
Dang.
And that was in Columbia.
Hey, I do get that it's a bad deal, man. That's not what
You've
I'm
already
saying.
opened it. It's
Yeah, you've already opened it.
It's too bad.
I'm just trying to explain.
No, man.
I'm
Look,
trying to explain the Sudafed.
Well, what do you think
situation
about pot?
specifically.
Like, pot's come up a couple times.
I'll get there.
Do you think pot should be legal?
I'll get there. I just want to explain the Sudafed situation, like why this is happening. So, you know, the public is outraged, right? Like, I was just reading here that this is an NIH study that methamphetamine use rose from 5,500 in 2015 number of overdose deaths to in 2019 it was 15,400. So it's actually getting worse now.
wow.
So, but probably
I
what
bet through
happened is
COVID.
after 2001 and these things were put in place to combat methamphetamine use, it went down, but now it's just going back up again because it doesn't work. It's like restricting Sudafed doesn't work. But anyways, so what happened was you had a large
So
number.
what do they? What,
you
it
had
doesn't
a large,
work how? Like they can get it in a different way.
Yes. So you had like a large number of methamphetamine.
So how do they get it?
A methamphetamine deaths, and so the government was outraged. You know, Bush is the president. He wants to do something about it. Tennessee governor's got to do something. West Virginia's governor's got to do something. So the idea is to come out with the Combating Methamphetamine Use Act. I think that's what it's called. And that was around that time. And their idea was to federally restrict how much Sudafed you can buy, because Sudafed was the one ingredient that people were using. You know, like you have like lighter fluid and stuff in it, but it was the one ingredient that people were using that the government could control, right? You can't control lighter fluid, but you can control how much Sudafed a person buys
Okay,
by
so
putting
hold
it
on.
behind
Maybe
the
I'm
counter.
stupid. So meth,
Mm-hmm.
You're not stupid.
like just so anybody who doesn't understand, like because you may understand totally what's going on with meth. So what, like, how do they get high off of it? What are they using the lighter fluid to extract something out?
Lighter fluid is an ingredient.
And Battery acid is as well. The alkaline.
You use these. It's chemistry. Like you go into it's Breaking Bad. You've watched Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah.
They're in the trailer. They're doing chemistry to. At some point, they're using lighter fluid to make.
So somebody made this up. What are they mimicking something?
Oh, I know. That's the.
Is it like a synthetic version of something else? Like what?
It's in a class that amphetamine is. Adderall.
Well, the Germans developed it, right?
Probably.
I think it was the Germans.
They're trying to hop people up, or what?
Mm-hmm.
They were probably
okay. So they cook up this whatever. Or what are they? They turning it back into like a pill, or what does it look like?
No, it's what's in Breaking Bad. So it's the glass, right?
So it's like a rock. So it's like a little crack.
His was
okay.
blue. Yeah, you put it in a spoon, and you light the spoon to heat the spoon up, and it melts the ice, and then you smoke it or inject it.
So people shoot it up too.
Yeah. And so it calls, people who have meth teeth, it's just like this nasty.
So they smoke it out of like little one hitters and stuff. Like, can you smoke it out of just like a little?
And it's a.
Hold on, let me write this down.
It's a psychoactive compound, so it ups you, right?
So it's kind of like
Adderall does, yeah.
Yes.
But it's extremes.
Okay.
And it causes people like law enforcement officers will tell you that like when somebody's on meth because you'll shoot them 5 times and they'll keep coming. Like that's what that stuff does.
So what's happening when something like that happens? Like because obviously you're going to start losing lungs and everything else, but you're just.
Oh, I mean, the person will bleed out, yes, but they don't feel anything because they're just so ramped up. They're just high.
I can't remember. Does Narcan work against that? It's the counter.
Narcan is a counter to an opioid.
Okay, to meth.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work on meth.
Mm-hmm.
So we have
Narcan injectors or intranasal ones.
We got we got both of those.
Okay.
But you notice drug use trends too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has to do with. It's so crazy how the trickle down happens too. Like you can have a run of heroin overdoses, or then you have some meth houses that are discovered, and you have meth heads.
Yeah,
calling
it starts to spread out.
But it's usually dictated by. I hate to say this. I don't know exactly, but from the way I understand it, is DEA involvement who disrupts the street value because they made certain busts or whatever, and people's addictions just changed to the other one for a while. Like now you're seeing some rise in heroin use because the legal opiates are not exactly available, and that's why you're seeing that. Mm-hmm. And then you got COVID too, man. You got to keep in mind, probably those numbers have gone up, spiked this past year.
For sure.
Because
drug
it's
use,
easy money.
Yeah, the CDC has already said, like, drug use has been through the roof last year. Like, it was.
So what do they
really
track,
bad.
though? Like
they track. I mean, they track.
They can't
death.
truly
They
track.
track deaths and arrests. So you can go to the FBI's crime statistics database and find out what the arrest stuff is, but you go to the CDC to find out what the death stuff is. So,
but I mean, people aren't dying to weed.
No.
So, like, what are they including? Are they just like ODs on pills,
on heroin and methamphetamine and stuff like that?
Fentanyl and all that.
And then sometimes they will include death as in like something that happens in the arrest where somebody on meth got arrested and they died when they were arrested, because they were on meth. Like they'll include that in there. But again, going back to the Sudafed thing, like that happens. Well, now look at, like I just read it, like methamphetamine use is up. So obviously it doesn't work anymore because like in Breaking Bad, you remember when they were stealing the barrels from the warehouse?
Yeah.
That was the Sudafed.
We got to go back to the pseudo cooks.
That's the pseudoephedrine replacement, right? Like that stuff in that show is not real, but they've got other stuff they use to replace Sudafed now. They don't need Sudafed anymore. They've evolved. And seriously, I mean, like, drug use is a business. Like,
do you know they had a real
people.
chemist? They had a real chemist in that show to make sure that all the chemistry or anything they showed was wrong.
Yeah,
that it was completely wrong, and like they didn't tip off any ways to make.
So to get to your thing about being available to have whatever you want.
Don't come at me like this is an intervention now, though. I'm just saying.
I feel like
I'm just saying that I think that I stand by the fact that I think that some people can handle it and some people can't. And the same, I just think there needs to be some consideration for that.
And I appreciate what you're saying, but to understand too, because the suggestions are made, well, if you legalize all of it, then you won't have the organized crime that you do. You won't have the murders in the streets vying for the right corner to sell the drug.
I guess what I'm saying is I trust myself more than I trust the government.
Understood.
And I think there needs to be a certain level, like, and I don't mean to sound like I want to be some autonomous, like, individual, and I'm gonna like start holding the bag up to my window and not talk to cops. I don't even mean it from that perspective. I'm saying that I think that there needs to be some consideration for people who have a track record, have age. Man, it could even be like 60, 70. I don't know, man. I just think we're living longer. People are way more educated, and I trust myself more than I trust the government in a lot of ways.
I don't think legalization will ever happen by what you're talking about. As much as it would be a perfect world for us to be able to trust.
No, the only reason it's going to get legalized is because
it's going to be
tax money and revenue.
It's not true. No,
that's why they did it.
It's going to get legalized how weed was. It's through.
No. I'm talking about weed now. What are we talking about?
Yeah,
no, I'm saying in general. I'm saying to be able to use cocaine freely, it's going to have to go through a process like weed has gone in the last 8 years.
I mean, like cocaine, like that's extreme, right? I think there are certain things like allergy medicine.
Cocaine's used in hospitals.
Weed. Of course it is. But I'm saying it shouldn't be just...
Where?
Oh, I mean, Vanderbilt's got some.
For what? I mean...
Well, they keep heroin and all that kind of stuff.
It's used
research?
No, like people come in.
It constricts blood vessels. So if someone has a major bleed, they use a topical form of
codeine. Well, dude, don't they keep meth and everything else? Because when people come in that are junkies, if they're treating them, they can't just not give them their heroin.
Methadone.
They keep Bud Light for alcoholics that come in.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
this Bud's for you, bro.
There's drug legalization.
Huh? There's no way.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah. I've seen it.
It is true.
Yeah. Drug legalization.
If we're both saying it has to be true.
Drug legalization is not going to come through government freedom. It's going to come through each drug undergoing its own trial to freedom, just like weed is. Like weed is.
But there is no trial for weed. They're not studying it. They can't study.
No, I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about a medical trial. I'm talking about a trial in society. Society itself is determining this stuff's okay now.
So what's your opinion?
I'm fine with it. Now, I mean,
what's your concerns with it?
My concerns are the unknown. You know, like I want to see what data Colorado and Washington have from driving under influence and stuff like that.
You know what? I bet you would find a correlation in potato chip sales.
Probably.
Yep.
But what I was thinking though was
PlayStation sales.
Well, maybe, but I think that there's just some inherent. I don't know. From the basis of the reason why it's illegal in the first place was all from a campaign in the 30s, and it was purely political and the whole thing.
And it's I mean, of course, I mean, politicians are going to politic. You know, like they'll campaign under weed freedom now. You know, they'll say.
Well, did you see Amazon? Did you see Amazon's not drug testing anymore, and they're actually lobbying the federal government to legalize weed?
I don't know why it's still illegal.
Yeah, it's stupid.
But that's what I'm saying is like, if a drug's going to be legal, it's going to have to do it itself. Like one at a time. Society is going to have to slowly get to this point. You know, like.
I think the reason though that people are so fired up about weed, and the reason like it would probably come up in conversation, or people would have full podcasts on it, or it's one that got labeled in there with heroin, bro, and it is not that at all.
I know. Yeah.
And it has so many beneficial properties in so many different ways. Like the guy who's the guy in the NFL that lobbied the lobbied the players union to be able to use weed instead of getting on opiates for pain management, being in the NFL, and then they end up getting fired. I can look that up, but yeah, man. I mean, there's so, and then the Weed the People documentary that I was talking about with childhood cancer.
Didn't the NFL just approve marijuana use?
I don't know.
I mean, they're not.
Bro,
they're not
Ricky Williams. Remember when Ricky Williams quit because he just wanted to go smoke weed?
He got kicked out of the NFL
quit the NFL. I thought he quit because he said he just wanted to go smoke weed.
He was one of the best running backs the world has ever seen. He got kicked out of the NFL for smoking weed, and now it's okay. Like you can do it if you want.
Hey man, did you know anybody in high school that smoked weed?
Oh yeah.
I mean, don't dime them out, but like I don't remember people smoking weed.
Oh, I do.
Or did you just like, I think that person smokes weed, or like, were you ever around people that smoked weed?
I was never when we were in high school, I never saw anybody do it until my senior year. But I remember, I know what it smelled like walking in the bathroom.
What's your first? Do you remember the first time you ever saw somebody smoke
Family
weed?
members when I was a kid, really young.
Just like didn't.
But my mom and dad, man, they got married at 15 and 17. So I was a little guy around young adults. That was my early memory. So there was weed always around us. My mom's going to kill me for saying that. But
No, man, I just don't think it's that big a deal, man.
It's not
really
a big a deal,
personally.
but here's what I think too. This is my public. I think the same way. I mean, I'm a firefighter. I notice these trends based on calls that we have. And dude, let me tell you something. A person on methamphetamines or on fentanyl, I'm used to it. I hate to say this, but I still treat it's like a customer service thing as well. I mean, you care for the patient that you're treating for, but what I'm saying is you're able to recognize this person, treat them the way that they needed to be treated medically and with respect. But at some levels, man, they're not even acting human anymore. Mm-hmm. It's strange to really explain that. I don't. It's hard to
just like animalistic or what.
The ones that I feel bad for, honestly, in the pre-hospital setting is law enforcement. As much as they get criticized, and people talk about mental health issues. Well, let me tell you, someone that's under the influence of those type of drugs, man, sometimes it's almost like they're not even human.
Yeah.
And they don't respond the same way. They're living in a different reality. So from my perspective, the whole reason that there are laws or tracking of certain drugs or Sudafed, there's a reason why that they're tracking that, and you can only buy so much, because when you see the ugly side of it, it's the biggest public health issue. You just need to witness.
Yeah, but no, you're proving my point though. I think what you're saying is exactly what I'm saying. Weed is not.
Right.
Yeah,
weed is
my
not
experience
the
with weed is you go to Ascend Amphitheater, and even though it's illegal in Nashville or any other venue,
I don't think anybody cares about weed.
Yeah, dude, seriously, if somebody is still jacking off to whether weed is good or bad, like, dude, you just seriously need something else to think about. Like,
they need experience with it too, though.
Yeah,
that would help.
I mean, I cannot tell you how many shows that I've been to where drunk people are the most obnoxious people. Literally, they're almost as obnoxious as the people I'm talking about that would just disrupt a retail environment.
People that are drunk in public and get drunk, like alcohol's
like
worse
they
than
just
weed,
suck, dude. And I think that is at the core of most people's general feeling about weed is when compared to alcohol, which is highly accepted in our society. Like, remember when we were kids when cigarettes were super accepted and like you had the Winston cup and then it really did get canceled. Like, we've witnessed this kind of stuff before where like something gets canceled. Cigarettes got canceled,
Smoking
bro.
in the boys' room.
Hey man, flip over any old magazine, Rolling Stone, it's going to be Marlboro Man, all of that.
Dude,
I
went to Hillsboro back when it was Hillsboro and not Leaper's Fort today. And dude, there were kids in middle school, bro, dipping.
Yeah. So
they would go outside, and our senior year they'd go out to the patio and smoke.
I guess what I'm saying, man, is I really feel like people know. Like, look at all these records, man. How many of these records how many records up here out of all of these do you think had zero influence whatsoever from weed?
There's
acid,
only one.
Probably some John Denver record when he was like being a Christian or something.
No,
like, what in the world?
What's his name? That is a big gun nut.
Creed.
Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent.
He's never touched any of it, he says.
He's a lie.
That's what he says. No alcohol either.
Whatever.
That's what he says, man. He never touched any of it.
You guys read any memoirs on people like that? Like, do you ever just any celebrity memoirs or in any capacity? I'm getting interested in that for some reason. You're not?
I'm not.
Movies I am.
Because I'm not
artist.
I'm more interested in people that live lives like I do. Like at some point, whether these people intended it or not, they just don't live a normal life. It's just not real.
I got to say this about the drug thing real quick.
But isn't that what's interesting about it, though?
No.
There's two drugs, I guess they're drugs. Is peyote a drug, or is it just another form?
Peyote's from a plant, right? It's like from a cactus.
Yeah, but it's another form of hallucinogen, right? So you can say hallucinogen and THC is not a hallucinogen. So what would that be? A depressant?
Yeah, marijuana is kind of like a natural anti-anxiety.
Okay,
depressant.
So those two, honestly, I really can't see how that they're illegal. They're naturally occurring substances in the wild.
Psilocybin is another one. Did you say that?
Those are the two, just based on the nature of what they are. I don't.
Well, here's the part that a lot of people miss about THC and about psilocybin and about ayahuasca, and like Joe Rogan talks about this crap all the time, but there's another piece to even beyond what he's saying. He'll have a couple people on that talk about like the sacrament side of it. Like there's a lot of those type drugs, LSD or THC, that I could even speak to given what experience I have on some of them. But like there's like this spiritual aspect to it, man. Like if you talk to anybody that's done acid or LSD, they would talk about that experience. Like if it was negative, it might be like a traumatic experience, but if it could be insanely positive or spiritual, and most people will remember it almost by the detail. Like it's a moment, and like we don't fully.
I would be terrified to do that.
I just don't think we understand. I don't think we fully understand what those are anymore because we haven't allowed them to be studied with. I mean, come on, man, think about this. Weed hasn't been legal since we've had basically like science, good science, the ability to, like, think about the research they could do on weed right now if they were just allowed to.
Long after that, they were still prescribing cocaine to housewives.
Hey man, what they're going to figure out that like weed cures cancer and all that. They're like, oops, it would have cured COVID too. Our bad, man. Like it's going to be something crazy. Like it's just too much benefit, and it's not going through lighter fluid and.
Bro, it's
Sudafed
it's
and everything
inevitably
else.
going through lighter fluid and battery acid, though. That's the problem.
What is?
There's still the public safety aspect that's a major concern.
Yeah, but that's another reason why it should be legal, right? Like if you have to go get your weed from the dude who's selling the meth and everything else, versus being able to go to a dispensary where it's actually regulated, even if they're still figuring out that regulation process. Don't you think it would be better that there is some form of regulation on weed now, even if it was just medical? I mean, I don't think who in the world could even argue against medical marijuana anymore, even for just pain management for dying people. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but dude, I guess you just need to see a person on meth.
I'm not talking about meth, though. I'm talking about weed.
And I don't disagree with you on weed. I honestly completely agree. I
mean, am I saying anything wrong or that you think's like not rational?
I just don't see it being bad anymore. I mean, I don't.
I mean, weed's fine.
Do you think most people think like that? Like or do you think most people think the way I'm saying? Like that,
I can tell you that like, most health professionals my age think that way.
Do you ever smell weed in your neighborhood?
No.
Ever? Do you?
I think
you're.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're. It's fine to talk about weed that way. Just don't extend it to other drugs. Like
that's my call.
Yeah, let me be clear.
Let's leave the other ones out.
Well, no. I think there's a few that should be added in. I think psilocybin is one.
And like I said,
it's naturally occurring.
Society, through its own trials with that drug, will determine that it gets to that place. But I'm just saying, like, you can't. There is no system you can come up with to just put it out there because it's. Oh well, there's a bunch of crimes, so we need to make it legal. Like that's not the answer.
Dude,
and I'm a libertarian, and I'm telling you that's not the answer.
Imitation weed, all those kinds of things that were being sold in gas stations. It was because of essentially a public safety emergency that those things were pulled. Look up on YouTube.
I'm not doubting what you're saying.
Bro.
Like there are nasty drugs. There are drugs that people should not take, but maybe they wouldn't take them if they had weed available. Like people want to get high.
Could be true.
People, they're either going to go do what? Go get drunk, and then where do they end up? The gutter.
But then there's people like us who
they're not going to starve to death if they smoke weed because they're going to eat all their snacks.
We know some people that'll crush up OxyContin and snort it because it gives them a high effect, right? But to you and me, it just makes us sleepy and slow, and we don't want to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So I think the same
thing. Your mama's sleepy and slow and didn't want to take it.
She is. But that's the same thing, though, isn't it? Wouldn't the same people not smoke weed? Wouldn't they have an experience on weed and say, I don't like this. I like my Oxy. Yeah. It's the same thing.
It can happen. You know,
I mean, maybe so, man. I guess I'm putting.
There's people I know that don't drink, and I love whiskeys. I mean,
I'm just putting more faith in people's personal decision making than I am in the federal government deciding right and wrong.
I want to live in that world, but I have less faith in that every day.
Unless something, to your point, does the opposite, where in the public opinion, heroin or something like that is so egregious that we have to say, like rape. I'm not saying that, adults should just be able to decide who they grab and slam down in the middle of a park on like a Wednesday night at 10:30. I'm not saying that level of freedom of choice. I'm saying, yes, we still outlaw what's egregious, whatever. But when it comes to certain substances that you put in your body, and the thing with weed is basically what you're saying is accurate. Everybody understands, dude, it's really stupid that it's illegal. So it's almost to the point that it's become like punk rock. It's like middle finger. Seriously, bro, weed. And so everybody kind of, I like weed. They almost like everybody's like championing weed right now. And anything you hear about weed, you're like, yeah, it's killer.
And we may get there with psilocybin one day, but we're just not there.
Well, they already have out in Washington State.
Thing. Yeah, but you're again living in a country that is so divided on everything. You know, that's the minority right now. Whereas over time, the window moves, and now marijuana's okay. Like psilocybin may be, you know.
Well, the other point too, though, man, you're seeing a freedom, you're seeing a relaxed sort of attitude over weed based on real data is one the big one, but the other side of it is that society is understanding after a couple of generations that it's not as bad as it was made out to be. Okay, so that's one. Problem is we've already had freedom of use with cocaine and heroin, and they've proven themselves to be evil. Does that make sense? So that's why they're illegal.
Yeah, I guess my point, man,
it was out there. People were prescribed it.
The laws aren't keeping people from doing it anyway. What those people really need is help.
I think they do. I think
they
do. I mean, it doesn't stop everybody. I mean, all laws are made to be broken, in some sense. But at the same time, like, how many kids out there grow up in a house like this with a family like yours that would never touch that stuff because it's illegal and they know it's wrong? But then you've got, other people that wouldn't think twice about it and they'd want to break
a couple of boys raised by a single mom who had terrible examples of dads. I don't want to be around that dude. Let's just go get high somewhere.
Yep.
And what's available? I don't know. You ever tried this? That's how those kinds of things start. I don't know.
And then if you have a family,
I guess I don't think fundamentally the rules are what's keeping people from doing that stuff. I just don't.
I think it discourages it greatly. I really think
your percentage and chances are a lot better.
But you could also say that it encourages it. Like it makes it cool, like because it's wrong. We're doing something that's illegal.
Yeah,
man.
But at the same time, education could.
Because what's going to happen? They're going to make weed legal, and nobody's going to care about it.
Education can do the same thing. You could provide a 5-course education on cocaine to kids in high school, and you could have 70 out of 100 kids say, "Oh, that stuff sounds wrong," but then you're going to have 30 kids. They're going to be like, "Man, I'm really interested. I just want to try it now that I know all this stuff about it." And they still end up using it.
Do you think? This is a question I got for you. Since obviously you're keeping up with this stuff. I believe this is an argument that I've made that, let's say nationwide, it's all legal, it's all legit. Mm-hmm. The banking system accepts it, and now the FDIC, they're able to park their money in banks, and it's a legit thing. There we go.
Yeah.
Would the same number of people using it now remain the same when you legalize it? Personally, I think it would just stay the same.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would change very much.
I don't think it would. The people that are smoking weed, I think that it'd be the same number. Just like I don't plan on. I wouldn't.
You know what I actually think would happen, and I think this is part of the reason why it's still not legal. I think your alcohol sales over the next 10 years would plummet. And I think a lot of people would cure their alcoholism.
I would be interested in knowing if the alcohol lobby has lobbied Congress to.
I bet they have.
I would be interested in seeing that. And I also bet drug companies probably did too, because they may see it as their best. Either they may see it as their best path to getting it prescription so that they can profit from it, or they may see it as people using that instead of their drugs that are prescription.
You know, and I really don't. I probably should stop talking about it because I really don't research any of that type stuff. Like I don't get into the studies or what's making it legal or who's fighting for what or what cases are. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like what I think is, I think people really should be allowed to be free, and I think a lot of it.
Man, not that one though, bro. I respect everything you
on
say.
weed or meth.
No.
Why do you keep going back to meth?
I assume,
you don't think weed should be legal?
I assume that.
Hold up, is that what you're saying?
I assume that you're not talking about weed. We
What?
don't. You and I don't have a problem with weed. I'm talking about everything else.
Yeah, but we were just talking about weed.
Oh,
It's so
I thought you
stupid,
were talking
man.
about psilocybin.
We're
Because
hungry.
even psilocybin, you need
I
a
think our
spotter,
pizza's about ready, too.
right?
A spotter. I tell you who needed a
You need
spotter.
a spotter. Real quick, I want to ask you one more question
Yeah.
before that pizza gets here.
It's not coming here. We got to go get it.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you like Nellie's? Are you gonna eat?
no, I gotta.
You gotta go.
You hear a lot of people talking about with COVID. There's this key point with these conspiracy theorists about spike genes or spike proteins.
Spike protein.
Will you explain that, please?
Yeah, I haven't. I don't really know a ton about that concept. I just know that what they're worried is that I'm trying to think exactly how this works. So on a coronavirus and any virus in general, there is a protein called a spike protein that, because viruses are not like bacteria. They're not exactly a living thing. I mean, they're living things, but there's like no cell nucleus. There's no mitochondria like in a bacterial cell or one of our cells. So it's just like a series of proteins in one homogeneous blob that just keep reproducing. That's all it does. It just keeps reproducing. And, there's spike proteins on the edge of it, and that's what allows it to attach to a cell, one of your cells. And then what it does is that basically the only key part of a virus is a DNA or RNA strand in the middle of it. And when that spike protein attaches to the cell, it spits that RNA or DNA into that cell, into your cell, to change how you transcribe protein so that it makes another virus cell. So it hijacks your cells to make another virus. And I believe what they're talking about is that us vaccinating against the virus using RNA technique is that it will somehow constantly make new variants of that spike protein so that the virus just keeps getting worse and worse or something like that. Or either that, or they're talking about like it allows the virus to coexist in the body so that it just doesn't even get rid of it, and then we're just all spreaders, something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but all I know is that I don't think that's a concern. I haven't seen any data talking about that in general view.
Conspiracy theorists love talking about it.
Yeah,
On TikTok or
because
what?
it is a
Dude,
theory.
everywhere.
Though.
Are you on TikTok?
It is a theory, for sure. Like that is a theory. Nobody's been able to say the spike protein is an issue. Like no one. So just like microchips in the vaccine.
Yeah, but what about
there's the whole thing about not being able, it affecting the reproductive system in women, and what they've actually found is that not only is it beneficial and it doesn't affect the reproductive system, actually having COVID affects your reproductive system worse.
Yeah, because you could die and not be able to.
Yeah,
You know,
but
have
even
sex.
then, it just affects all the functions of your body that, you don't have the sperm and the egg as easy. So, yeah.
I like this one.
This
man.
one's good, man. This was fun. We'll go get our pizza.
How was the coffee? Did you like it? Mm-hmm. Is that your first time having that?
Blue Black Rifle.
Black Rifle.
It's good.
They make that in K-Cup.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do.
They call them single shots.
Do you have to? Can you get that from the store?
That's good. Single shot.
Reloads?
Can
Bro,
you
go to
get-
their website.
Can
Just
you
do
get it from the store, or do you have to get it from them?
Do their so here's the plug. They should sponsor us, bro. But anyway,
it.
so they do they hire a high percentage of veterans.
Mhm.
It may be all veteran run, I don't know. Or like veterans' wives and stuff like that.
Okay.
And such as. But they have a sticker pack that you can do like $10. I do it just because I think their stickers are cool. Here's one right here. I think they're cool, but you get 4 stickers for $10, and I feel like I honestly, man, I'd rather give that $10 to Black Rifle Coffee, knowing that they work
course.
vets.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that's $10 to me that I could be giving to the church, but instead I'm skipping the church, and I think that's a good decision with my money.
Boom. That was a mega bomb right there.
Yeah,
Your mom's going to call you again on that one.
yeah. So anyway, man.
Okay.
But yeah, you can get a subscription. I just do that. I get like 2 of the.
Oh, they just
Two
keep
of the little
sending you
bags.
bags?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you can you get on your app and you can
Okay.
change. Like I've gotten the firefighter one, the fire alarm, or I forget what it's called. I just got the
5 alarm,
silencer,
yeah.
5 alarm. I got
Do
the silencer smooth.
Do they sell gun parts?
Gun parts.
Yeah,
No, they
like-
sell no,
Just coffee.
just coffee.
Okay.
It's just all it is a coffee company. They have
It's really good.
they have apparel. Their stickers are cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen their name around. So
Yeah,
I think they're
but they
sponsored
really
in
lean
NASCAR,
heavy.
actually.
Yeah, they lean really heavy into the military thing.
Yeah.
All their social
Well,
media is all pro.
The guy that founded it was in the military, right?
Yes.
Or guys. I think there's more
Matt
than one.
Best and what's the Evan Haffer? I think I got that
I think
right.
that's it.
Were they on Rogan or something?
Evan was.
Evan, yeah.
Okay.
I think Matt may have been a long time ago.
Was he a SEAL?
I forget
No,
what he
Evan
was.
guy?
One of them was a
He was
Green
a
Beret,
Ranger.
and I think one of them.
Yeah, Green Beret. That's right.
Okay.
Dude, thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, it was fun. I'm glad we threw this together.
Let's go get some pizza.
Peace out. Nelly's.
This was fun.